Hi, I'm Nicole. I grew up in a small town. You know, the kind where everyone knows each other's business. Don't let my pretty appearance and feminine ways fool you, as I'm a tough cookie. But my best friend Dominique, well, she lets people walk all over her, which really annoys me. I always went out of my way to protect her, but I never expected to lose her as a best friend. Dominique and I met way back in kindergarten. This other girl was teasing her about her pigtails, so I stormed over there and pushed her into a muddy puddle, which resulted in her running off in tears. Dominique gave me the sweetest look and shyly thanked me. After that, we became pretty much inseparable. We pinky promised each other that we'd always be there to protect each other, and we'd never date anyone, as boys were stupid. But then, high school happened. Dominique grew prettier and prettier, which meant lots of boys liked her. But she had the worst taste ever in boys, and she always went for guys who took advantage of her sweet nature. There was this one jerk from school called Brandon. He thought the world revolved around him just because he was okay looking and good at sports. Geez, he was the worst. Anyway, he made sure everyone knew about the lame party he was having. Dominique and I were standing by her locker when Brandon came and talked to us. After he left, I looked at Dominique. She turned as red as a lobster. I knew that look. She clearly had a crush on him, and I, as always, had to protect her from the latest jerk. I arranged to meet Dominique at the party. I arrived to find her standing in the corner chatting to Brandon. Ugh! I hurried over to them and started talking about odd things like how beautiful the weather was. Dominique noticed my weird behavior, so she asked Brandon to get us some drinks, then asked me what was up. I said to her, "Why are you hanging out with this guy? Don't you know how he treats girls like you?" She replied, "Girls like me? What's that supposed to mean? I don't need a babysitter. You can't tell me what to do." Then she walked off in a huff. Whatever, she could be that way. I was trying to protect her from a guy only after one thing. She didn't have to be so crass about it. I hung out with some of my other classmates, but continued to keep an eye on her. She barely left Brandon's side, and I noticed how he kept supplying her with drinks. When it got to the point that she nearly fell over, then giggled about it, I knew she'd drunk enough. I went over to her and told her I was taking her home. But Brandon had other ideas. He grabbed a bottle and announced that all of us were going to play Spin the Bottle. Ugh, could this night get any worse? Smirking, he passed me the bottle and said, "Ladies first." I snatched it off him. Jeez, I hoped the bottle didn't stop on Brandon, as I would probably throw up if I had to kiss his gross lips. I spun the bottle and I swear it took forever to stop spinning. And then the bottle finally stopped on Dominique. OMG! I had to kiss her. She's my best friend. Talk about weird. Everybody was laughing and cheering, "Kiss, kiss, kiss, kiss." We looked at each other and blushed. Then she closed her eyes and leaned towards me. I told myself that it was just some dumb game and it didn't mean anything. Before I also closed my eyes and we kissed. My heart started to beat really fast and my hands began to shake. It's so strange. I didn't feel weird at all. Actually, it felt warm and safe. We kissed for 10 seconds, but for me, it felt like 5 minutes. Before I could properly process what was going on, Brandon passed her the bottle. Oh no, it was her turn. She spun the bottle and it stopped on Brandon. Stupid Brandon! Oh, hell no. She has to kiss that jerk? Brandon looked like all of his Christmases had come at once. Jeez, I seriously hoped that when it was his turn, the bottle landed on a dude. He just grabbed her hand, pulled her towards him, and kissed her. I mean, really kissed her. And she kissed him back. Oh no. I thought I was going to throw up. Everybody was cheering. Well, except for me. Obviously, they wouldn't quit kissing, so I pulled him away from her and told her that that was enough. But he flinched me off and told me they were just getting started. Then he continued kissing her. Anger fueled me, so I grabbed Brandon and punched him in the face. Everyone was yelling at me, including Brandon, who made it clear I needed to leave his lame party. I looked at Dominique, but she glanced away from me. Then I saw Brandon put his arm around her shoulders. After that, I left without saying another word. I was angry, especially towards Dominique. She was my best friend, yet she chose to stay with that jerk over me. More confusingly, I couldn't stop replaying our kiss over and over in my mind. I'd dated a few guys before, but I'd never felt that way when I kissed them. With her, it felt like butterflies were in my stomach. Did I have feelings for my best friend? No way. I liked boys. Right? My mood only worsened the next day at school. I was drinking coffee in the canteen when I heard some girls behind me talking about how Dominique had slept with Brandon last night. Talk about a surprise. I ended up knocking over my coffee in shock. Maybe I misheard them. So I turned around and asked the girls if it was true, and they all said yes. In that instance, I was just this empty vessel with no happiness left inside of me. When I saw Dominique in the corridor, she waved over at me, but I just walked away. The next few weeks were awful. I couldn't sleep, eat, or concentrate on anything. All I could think about was Dominique being with Brandon, and it made my heart hurt. I missed her smile, her laugh, and how happy she made me. Yep, I finally realized that I had feelings for my best friend. But she was in love with somebody else. I tried my best to move on, so I started dating some guy named Clay. He was kinda cute and a really nice guy. Clay was great and all, but I missed Dominique like crazy. Then one day, when Clay was round at mine studying, there was a knock at the door. To my complete shock, I opened the door to see Dominique standing there. I didn't know how to react. Part of me was so happy to see her, but she caused me so much pain. So I abruptly said, "What do you want?" "Nicole, please hear me out. I'm so sorry about what happened at Brandon's party. I really miss you, and there's something else I need to tell you." I couldn't deal with this right now. I still felt so hurt, so I told her to go. Then I went into the house and left her outside. Later on, I received a message from Dominique. "Dear Nicole, I'm really sorry about everything. I wasn't a good friend to you. You protected me, but I didn't appreciate it. I'm so stupid. I realize now that you are the best thing that ever happened to me. I love you, Nicole, but I get it now. We're not destined to be together. I hope Clay makes you happy. Your best friend, Dominique." Dominique loved me. She loved me too. I needed to see her right away, so I ran over to her house. But when I got there, it was like the end of the world. She wasn't there. But not only that, the house was empty. I tried calling her, but her number didn't exist anymore. Her neighbor told me Dominique's father had got a new job, so they'd all left in a hurry, and she didn't know where they'd moved to. And that's it. Dominique had erased herself from my life. I didn't even have the chance to tell her how I felt. I just sat outside her empty house and cried. I broke up with Clay after that. Then, when I graduated from high school, I left the town that held so many painful memories about Dominique and moved to college in New York. After 4 years, I graduated and decided to stay in the city. One day, I was having my morning coffee in my favorite cafe when I saw this woman across the street. She looked so familiar. Could it be? I couldn't believe my eyes. It was her. It was Dominique. I narrowly avoided being hit by a taxi as I rushed across the street to get to her. "Dominique, is that you?" I shouted. She turned and looked at me. "Nicole? Oh my God, how long has it been? 5 years?" Then I noticed that she was holding a kid's hand. He looked around 3 or 4 years old. "Is that your nephew? He's so cute," I said. "Actually, no. He's my son. His name is Nick. I named him after you." It turns out, before she'd left town, she'd fallen pregnant with Brandon's child. She decided to keep the baby and raised him alone with her family. And she hadn't told Brandon about him. Having her back in my life was amazing. There's no way I was losing her again. So one time when I was over at hers watching a movie, I found the courage to tell her how I felt about her. At first, she was quiet, and my heart sank at the prospect of her rejecting me. But then she smiled and told me she loved me too, and that she always had. I'm so relieved that this time around, I didn't make the same mistake that I made when I was younger. I'm so fortunate to have another chance with Dominique, and I will never let her go again. Her and Nick are my world. Our mistakes don't define us. Instead, they're there to learn from, so in the future, we're more capable of making the right choices. As soppy as it sounds, I guess true love will always prevail in the end. It definitely has for me.
Let me tell you something. Something really important. I have acrophobia, so this is my idea of a nightmare. I don't want to be here at all. Oh, and that guy on the other side is Charlie. He's my boyfriend. I don't actually like him like that. So you're probably wondering how I end up here, 200 meters above the ground and about to make this terrifying leap. Well, let's just start from the beginning. Hi, I'm Luna. a 17-year-old high school girl from a small town in New South Wales. Growing up, I was desperate to please my hard-working single mom. The problem was she was nearly always tired and irritable. So no matter what I said or did, it usually ended up being wrong. The most common word that came out of her mouth were, "If you want me to love you, you have to be nice." I wanted her to love me more than anything else in the world, so I did everything I could to appease her. This led to the need to make everyone happy and left me with an unfathomable fear of being hated by others. If I made other people happy, then they'd like me, right? So whenever someone asked me to do their homework or cover for them on roll call, I did so without hesitation. And if there's ever an argument or awkward situation, regardless of if I'm to blame or not, I always apologize first. At 15, I moved to Sydney alone for high school, and that's when I met my roommate Margot. She's my complete opposite, but this didn't stop us from becoming best friends. She's independent, sassy, and doesn't let anyone pressure her into doing anything she doesn't want to. If I were more like her, I would have been able to avoid a lot of trouble. Once we had a group assignment in biology, and I, by chance, teamed up with these two popular girls. The day before the deadline, they both texted me saying they were sick and asked me to do their parts. This was a lot of work for one person, but I didn't want to upset them, so I agreed. But then, that night, while I was scrolling through Instagram during my brief break after hours of studying, I saw them checking in at a party. What? So they lied to me so they could go out and have fun and left me home alone to do their homework? Oh my, I just want to take this pen and throw it right at their dumb duck faces. How was that cute in anyway? But who was I kidding? I knew full well I'd never be able to tell them what I really thought of them. So I picked up the pen and continued my workload meant for 3 people alone. I stayed up all night and drank 3 cans of energy drinks, but it was just too much work for one person to finish on time. Our assignment, or should I say my assignment, got points deducted due to late submission, which somehow made the popular girls mad. What have you done? How could you turn in the assignment late? I'm sorry. It's just doing it all by myself was a bit too much for me. Oh, please. You had the whole day to finish it. It's all down to your poor time management. Right at that moment, Margot appeared, out of nowhere, and stepped between us. Pfft. If you both cared so much about your grades, then you would have helped Luna complete it. Instead of going to some stupid party, how about I report you to teacher to cross out your names from Margot? Enough. Sorry, don't mind her. Then I quickly pulled Margot away. Apologizing to them was a ridiculous thing to do. It wasn't your fault. I know it's not my fault, but there's no point making a scene out of it, right? Fine. In that case, I'll leave you alone with all the troubles you've caused yourself. I don't care anymore. Oh, no, I didn't mean to make Margot mad. I quickly apologized to her, told her she was my best friend in the whole world, and asked her to go for a milkshake to make up. A week later, on the day my volunteer club was selling lemonade to raise funds for a children's charity, I suddenly fell sick. Oh no, I'd been telling everyone at the club how important this event was, but now I was the one who'd be absent. How embarrassing. I needed to show them how sincere I was. I texted the club president that I was sick, but if the club really needed me, I could still try to participate. Now I can finally sleep. But who would know? Before I even had time to curl up in bed, he texted back saying how they really needed my help. If I could come, that'd be great. Oh, no. Did I really have to drag my feverish self over there? Not knowing what to do, I turned to Margot for advice. She snapped at me. If you knew you couldn't go, why suggest otherwise? People will always take advantage of you if you let them. So just make clear that you're sick and can't participate. Then she told me how her music club had a dinner meeting tonight, yet she'd already decided she was having a relaxing camper session tonight, so she immediately told them she was otherwise engaged. Margot was right. If I'd done as she said in the first place, I wouldn't have had to rack my brains looking for excuses to say no without annoying anyone. Finally, I texted the club president that I was afraid of affecting everyone, so I'd better stay home. Then I fell asleep and found my worries plaguing my dreams. The next day, I felt better, so after class I dropped by the club's room. I instantly felt weird vibes from everyone. Then when I asked the club president how much money we'd earned from the event, he totally blanked me. Oh, no. He was obviously still mad with me for letting him down. I was lost in thoughts when suddenly someone tapped me on the shoulder. I heard you were sick. Are you feeling better now? It was Charlie, one of the club members. He told me that day I was off sick, he voluntarily took over all of my work. So I invited him out for a thank you dinner right away. Maybe he misunderstood my goodwill gesture, as after that he bombarded me with texts, calls, and soppy memes. Then one day while we were walking together, Charlie suddenly stopped into my hand. Luna, we've known each other for a while now. I think it's time for me to confess my feelings. I like you. Will you go out with me? Oh my. What did he just say? I stood there dumbfounded. I mean, I liked him as a friend, but not romantically. But when I met his expectant gaze, my conscience began to torment me. He was such a nice guy, so how could I say no to him? In the end, I forced a smile and nodded in agreement. My feelings for him will develop over time, right? But unfortunately, the answer to this was no. Actually, since we started dating, I found myself liking him even less than before. He does a lot of things that irritate me, such as the time he insisted we wear couple outfits to school. Yeah, slogan shirts with "he's mine, she's mine" print on them should definitely be left in 2010. Ugh. He smugly ushered me around the school and seemed oblivious to laughs and points in our direction. If only the ground could just open up and swallow me right away. That evening, noticing how fed up I looked, Margot asked me if everything was going all right between me and Charlie. So I told her everything. I thought she'd get mad at me again, but to my surprise, she just sighed and told me to tell the truth and break up with Charlie before things got too serious. That's the best way to stop both of us from getting hurt. And also, I've heard a lot of bad things about Charlie. People say he's kinda erratic. You better get this over with as soon as possible. Yeah, Margot's right. Next time I saw Charlie, I was ending this once and for all. Turns out I didn't have to wait long, because that Sunday afternoon, Charlie came to pick me up for our date. He told me he had a surprise in store for me, and I was gonna love it. Okay, it sounds like he'd got loads of effort, so it was probably best I left breaking up with him till the journey home. Almost there! You know what Charlie said? I looked at the window and, oh my god, is that a bungee jumping spot? So, long story short, here I am, 200 meters off the ground, my legs trembling like a leaf and my heart thudding like crazy. I was about to cry out of fear when suddenly I heard romantic music playing behind me. I turned around to see Charlie getting down on one knee. Behind him was eagle-eyed staff holding roses and candles while swaying to the music. What's happening? I know we haven't been dating long, but it's clear that we're made for each other. Luna, will you marry me? What? Did I hear him wrong? I mean, I'm only 17. Seeing my puzzled look, Charlie hurriedly said, I know we're still in high school, but don't worry, we can wait till graduation. Then let's have the most wonderful wedding straight after that. This was insane. I stood there, rooted to the floor, not knowing what to do, and seeing everyone watching and waiting made me feel even more pressured. I was trying to figure all this out when Charlie forced the ring on my finger. Oh my god. What should I do? What should I do? Well, in classic me fashion, I didn't do anything. My stupid hand just froze in place, and in the end, it turned out like this. No, I couldn't let this happen. Charlie, actually, I don't have feelings for you. I was going to tell you today, but I didn't expect things to end up like this. You're kidding me, right? If you didn't like me, you wouldn't have let me put the ring on earlier. So I explained everything to Charlie. His face darkened with disappointment. I felt so guilty. I should have just been straight with him from the beginning, then none of this would have happened. We can still be friends, can't we? I asked, but Charlie replied without even looking at me. If you don't like me, then why give me hope? Why the emotionless tone? It felt like he turned into a completely different person. Afraid, I kept quiet, not daring to put out so much as a word. I'd be home soon, away from this suffocating atmosphere. But as Charlie drove, I noticed how the surroundings became stranger and stranger. This is definitely not the way to the dormitory. Finally, the car stopped at an abandoned construction site. Luna, get out of the car. Sensing his irritable tone, I did as he said. You can stay here until you've figured out that we're destined for each other. Then call me. I watched in horror as he drove away and left me there. I was all alone, in the middle of nowhere. Panicked, I called Marg for help, but as soon as she picked up, my phone ran out of power. I explored the area, but it was completely deserted. Would I be stuck here forever without anyone knowing? It was getting late. I'd barely eaten or drank anything all day, and this felt hopeless. I burst into tears, and then everything fell dark around me. I woke up to the bright lights of the hospital. Margot jumped in to give me a hug, then explained what had happened. Turns out that night after I called her, she checked my location on Snapchat and saw that I was in some deserted place. Sensing something was off, Margot and the dormitory manager went to find me and took me to the hospital. Charlie was disciplined and detained for a month for the trouble he'd caused. After that horrible experience, I talked a lot with Margot. She comforted me, encouraged me, and said that it seemed like my desire to please others stemmed from childhood trauma. Perhaps it was my mother's words. If you want me to love you, you have to be nice. That created the character I have now. I couldn't continue to let past consume me. That summer, when I returned home to see my mom, together, we poured out our feelings and faced our problems. I finally figured out being nice to people wasn't a bad thing, but agreeing to things just to avoid disappointing people isn't the correct thing to do at all. Now, with Margot's help, I'm step by step learning to say no to things I don't want to do, because life's way too short to say yes to everything. Don't you think?
Hi, I'm Viola, and today's a big day. You see, it's my first time ever acting in this awesome short film, but I can't seem to focus at all. Why, you ask? Well, that's because I just discovered I'm not real. Or, to be exact, I only exist in my best friend's imagination. Sounds strange, doesn't it? Until yesterday, I always thought of myself as a completely normal human being. Let me tell you how it all started. The first memory I have involves my best friend Harlow. I woke up feeling dazed and confused and saw this pretty girl smiling down at me. She told me that I'd be safe now and that her parents were going to look after me. Strangely, I couldn't remember anything before that day, and no one told me what had happened. I could only guess that I'd probably been abandoned or something, and that Harlow and her parents were my saviors. So, from then on, I lived with Harlow's family, who showed me kindness and love. When I first got out of the hospital, I couldn't do anything by myself. From personal things like brushing my teeth and washing my face, to chores such as doing laundry and dumping the trash. At the time, it was Harlow who guided and helped me, like a caring big sister. Then, when we entered middle school and the boys started flirting with me, Harlow was always by my side to protect me. She told me how they would never like a plain, boring girl like me, and that they were only doing this to get close to her, as she was very beautiful. If I had a decision to make, big or small, I always consulted Harlow first, as I knew she'd know best. But recently, I noticed that Harlow was acting short-tempered with me. When I got a better grade on my English essay than her, she told me I only got that mark as the teacher just felt sorry for me. Then she stormed off. Man, I didn't mean to upset her, and it was really unfair that the teacher didn't give her the grade she deserved, as she's far smarter than I am. Then last week, this boy called Hank in our school's film club held open auditions for his short film project. Harlow was desperate to be in it, so I decided to go along with her for support. I thought Harlow's audition was marvelous, but for some reason she wasn't picked. I was about to leave too, but then Hank asked me if I wanted to audition. So I did, and you know what? I got the lead role. I was so surprised, and so was Harlow. She insisted that they were just tricking me and I shouldn't take the part, as why would they choose a girl with ordinary looks like me to play the female lead? Still, I want to give it a try. Opportunities like this don't come twice, right? So I accepted the part. I know Harlow was worried that they were just teasing me, but Hank and his crew seemed nice. And maybe he finds my normal look suitable for the character, right? The morning before the shooting day, I asked Harlow to lend me her pretty white dress to wear to the shoot. Harlow looked annoyed as she said, "You spilled coffee on that dress last time you borrowed it, remember? You didn't even bother taking care of it, and now the stain's still there." "No way! I remember washing it before returning it to you." "Well, then you remember it wrong. It's my dress, so I'm hardly going to forget what you did to it, am I?" Then she left in a temper. Strange. I remember using vinegar to clean the coffee stains, as it took me ages to scrub it off. But it is true that my memory isn't all that good. When I was a child, I once waited in the park in the rain for over an hour, just because I thought Harlow told me to meet her there on Saturday afternoon. I said Sunday afternoon. I have piano practice today, silly. So maybe I misremembered again and really didn't wash the dress for her? That day in math class, Harlow got caught texting, so the teacher confiscated her phone. At break time, she asked me to sneak into the school administrator's room to get her phone back. But of course I refused, as I was far too scared to do that kind of stuff. "It's okay, no one can see you." Basically because you only exist in my imagination. What was she talking about? What did she mean by that? For the rest of the lesson, I kept thinking about Harlow's words. When the bell rang, seeing that I was still confused, Harlow pointed to a group of students standing nearby and told me that no matter what I did, they wouldn't see me. And it's true! When I waved my hands and talked to them, no one looked in my direction. I even snapped my fingers in front of them, but they didn't react at all. What is going on? Harlow told me that because she imagined me, she is in control of who sees me or not. Then she told me that if I still didn't believe it, I should go to the school administrator's room to get her phone. Then I'd see that she was telling the truth. The superintendent was standing right across the hallway, but Harlow assured me I'd be invisible to her. My heart was thudding like crazy, but I tried to shake back my nerves and continued to get her phone undetected. Whoa! The superintendent didn't see me at all! So what Harlow said was true? I only existed in her imagination? That means Harlow's really the one who decides what will happen to me, and who I'll meet? So basically the author of my life story. But does that also mean that I have no control over my own life? Well, if I even have a life? Then Harlow barged into my room and said, "You've never wondered why you don't remember anything about your parents and about the time before you met me, have you?" It was because I lost my memory after the accident. There was no accident, Viola. You have no previous memories because that was when I created you, as I wanted a friend to play with. I kept this truth a secret because I love you, and you always listen to me, but you've been so headstrong lately. After Harlow left, I found myself feeling so down. It turned out my whole life had never belonged to me. No wonder I was so plain and ordinary. All I am is a side character in Harlow's story. After a horrible, sleepless night, I didn't even feel like going to the film set anymore. And it's already late anyway. I was laying in bed, spacing out, when Hank phoned me asking where I was. I only exist in Harlow's imagination, so there's no point filming.
Huh? What nonsense are you going on about? Stop joking, Viola. We're short on time over here.
Seeing that I didn't even bother to reply to him, but just let out a long sigh, he continued.
All right then. If that's the case, then you should at least make it count. Would you like to imagine yourself as just a boring nobody? Or a brilliant actress?
I suppose Hank's words made sense, so I got myself back together and hurried to the film set. Even if I'm imaginary, I'll make this unreal life of mine unimaginably awesome. Filming was actually a lot of fun, and everyone complimented my acting. They were probably just being nice, but it still felt good. Then Hank came over and congratulated me. Now that filming's over, you can be honest with me. I don't mind. I know you only cast me as the lead as you like Harlow.
What do you mean? And the thing you said this morning as well about only existing in Harlow's imagination?
I ended up blurting out everything to him, and you know what he did? He laughed. But when he saw that I was struggling to fight back my tears, he took my hand.
Viola, listen to me. Harlow's tricking you. The only thing not real in all of this are her words, not you.
No way. Harlow's my best friend. She would never do such a thing.
If you only exist in Harlow's imagination, how come you still decided, on your own, to show up at film set this morning? How can you still meet other people with her being around? Like, right now. Harlow couldn't have written the script with all these little details, right? Come on, Vi. Think about it.
But there was a time when Harlow made me invisible to everybody else. I snapped my fingers in front of them, and they didn't react at all. Hank asked me who these people were, and I told him. He said he'd make sure I saw sense, then left. This was so confusing. I cannot tell what is real and what's not anymore. The next day at school, when I was sorting my locker out, Hank dragged a reluctant-looking boy over to me. I recognized him. He was part of a group who didn't see me.
Go on. Tell her everything.
The boy told me how Harlow had bribed them to trick me. He also said that they distracted the superintendent so I could sneak into her office without being caught. What? I didn't understand why Harlow would do this to me. Hank went with me to confront her, and she faked a smile and said,
"Silly Viola. It was just a joke."
So what about the fact that I can't remember anything about the time before I met you? You said there was no accident. It's also a lie, isn't it?
I never said that. Probably just remembered again like so many times before. I view you as a sister, Viola. I'd never lie to you.
I didn't know what to believe anymore. I needed to be alone for a minute. This was all too much a process. So I ran to the nearby park to clear my mind. Suddenly, I felt something cold next to my cheek. It was Hank. He passed me some water and told me to drink it and calm down.
Viola, I think Harlow's gaslighting you. She's basically emotionally abusing you to make you question your own sanity. I know you see her as a sister, but she's really toxic.
Could it? Could it be possible that Harlow didn't have my best interests at heart? But what did she even get out of this, though? I'm not sure if this was because she wanted me to rely on her or she's jealous, but either way, knowing she could deceive me like that hurt like crazy. I didn't want to believe that that was what had been happening, but after all explanations, it's so clear now that Harlow was gaslighting me. And ever since then, I tried to avoid her as much as possible. But this was tricky, seeing as we were in the same class and lived together. I just wished I could grow up fast, so I could go to college and leave this house. At least there was good news. Hank's film in which I starred had gained attention on YouTube, and he was even selected to attend the short film festival with a view to supporting the city's young talented filmmakers. Then, one day, I arrived home from school to see Harlow's parents drinking coffee with a strange woman. Huh? She sure looked a lot like me. Suddenly, she was running over to me and hugging me in her arms. Oh, darling, you have no idea how long I've been waiting for this moment. Following a whole lot of confusion, shocking revelations, and emotions, I finally found out the actual truth. It turned out that when I was 7 years old, Mom took me on a yacht trip. Only there was a terrible accident, so we took the lifeboat to shore. But then Mom fell out and ended up being rescued by another boat. We both suffered memory loss. In fact, Mom only remembered who I was when she saw the short film I starred in on YouTube. And then she tracked me down here. After that, I returned to live with my real mom. And guess what? I now realize just how awesome I am. I'm grateful to Harlow's parents for looking after me, but I still haven't forgiven Harlow yet. I'm trying to, as I know she's not all bad, but it's going to take some time. I also feel so blessed to have Hank by my side to help me discover my confidence and value my own worth. He even says I can be in his next film project, which I'm really excited about. It's good to know that I'm actually real, and I exist outside of Harlow's mind. The world is mine for the taking. And who knows, maybe one day I'll end up being a professional actress.
Let me tell you something. Something really important. I have acrophobia, so this is my idea of a nightmare. I don't want to be here at all. Oh, and that guy on the other side is Charlie's my boyfriend, but I don't actually like him like that. So you're probably wondering how I end up here, 200 meters above the ground and about to make this terrifying leap? Well, let's just start from the beginning. Hi, I'm Luna, a 17-year-old high school girl from a small town in New South Wales. Growing up, I was desperate to please my hard-working single mom. The problem was she was nearly always tired and irritable. So no matter what I said or did, it usually ended up being wrong. The most common words that came out of her mouth were, "If you want me to love you, you have to be nice." I wanted her to love me more than anything else in the world, so I did everything I could to appease her. This led to the need to make everyone happy, and left me with an unfathomable fear of being hated by others. If I made other people happy, then they'd like me, right? So whenever someone asked me to do their homework or cover for them on roll call, I did so without hesitation. And if there's ever an argument or awkward situation, regardless of if I'm to blame or not, I always apologize first. At 15, I moved to Sydney alone for high school, and that's when I met my roommate Margot. She's my complete opposite, but this didn't stop us from becoming best friends. She's independent, sassy, and doesn't let anyone pressure her into doing anything she doesn't want to. Guys, if I'm more like her, I would have been able to avoid a lot of trouble. Once we had a group assignment in biology, and I, by chance, teamed up these two popular girls. The day before the deadline, they both texted me, saying they were sick, and asked me to do their parts. This was a lot of work for one person, but I didn't want to upset them, so I agreed. But then, that night, while I was scrolling through Instagram during my brief break after hours of studying, I saw them checking in at a party. What? So they lied to me so they could go out and have fun and left me home alone to do their homework? Oh my, I just want to take this pen and throw it right at their dumb duck faces. How was that cute in anyway? Ugh, but who was I kidding? I knew full well I'd never be able to tell them what I really thought of them. So I picked up the pen and continued my workload meant for 3 people alone. I stayed up all night and drank 3 cans of energy drinks, but it was just too much work for one person to finish on time. Our assignment, or should I say my assignment, got points deducted due to late submission, which somehow made the popular girls mad. What have you done? How could you turn in the assignment late? I'm sorry. It's just that doing it all by myself was a bit too much for me. Oh, please. You had the whole day to finish it. It's all down to your poor time management. Right at that moment, Margot appeared, out of nowhere, and stepped between us. If you both cared so much about your grades, then you would have helped Luna complete it. Instead of going to some stupid party, how about I report you to the teacher to cross out your names from Margot? Enough. Sorry, don't mind her. Then I quickly pulled Margot away. Apologizing to them was a ridiculous thing to do. It wasn't your fault. I know it's not my fault, but there's no point making a scene out of it, right? Fine. In that case, I'll leave you alone with all the troubles you've caused yourself. I don't care anymore. Oh, no, I didn't mean to make Margot mad. I quickly apologized to her, told her she was my best friend in the whole world, and asked her to go for a milkshake to make up. A week later, on the day my volunteer club was selling lemonade to raise funds for a children's charity, I suddenly fell sick. Oh no, I'd been telling everyone at the club how important this event was, but now I was the one who'd be absent. How embarrassing. I needed to show them how sincere I was. I texted the club president that I was sick, but if the club really needed me, I could still try to participate. Now I can finally sleep. But who would know? Before I even had time to curl up in bed, he texted back saying how they really needed my help. So if I could come, that'd be great. Oh, no. Did I really have to drag my feverish self over there? Not knowing what to do, I turned to Margot for advice, but he snapped at me. If you knew you couldn't go, why suggest otherwise? People will always take advantage of you if you let them. So just make clear that you're sick and can't participate. Then she told me how her music club had dinner meeting tonight, yet she'd already decided she was having a relaxing pamper session tonight, so she immediately told them she was otherwise engaged. Margot was right. If I'd done as she said in the first place, I wouldn't have had to rack my brains looking for excuses to say no without annoying anyone. Finally, I texted the club president that I was afraid of infecting everyone, so I'd better stay home. Then I fell asleep and found my worries plaguing my dreams. The next day, I felt better. So after class, I dropped by the club's room, but I instantly felt weird vibes from everyone. Then when I asked the club president how much money we'd earned from the event, he totally blanked me. Oh, no. He was obviously still mad with me for letting him down. I was lost in thoughts when suddenly someone tapped me on the shoulder. I heard you were sick. Are you feeling better now? It's Charlie, one of the club members. He told me that day I was off sick. He voluntarily took over all of my work. So I invited him out for a thank you dinner right away. Maybe he misunderstood my goodwill gesture, as after that he bombarded me with texts, calls, and sappy memes. Then one day while we were walking together, Charlie suddenly stopped and took my hand. Luna, we've known each other for a while now. I think it's time for me to confess my feelings. I like you. Will you go out with me? Oh my. What did he just say? I stood there dumbfounded. I mean, I liked him as a friend, not romantically. But when I met his expectant gaze, my conscience began to torment me. He was such a nice guy, so how could I say no to him? In the end, I forced a smile, then nodded in agreement. My feeling for him will develop over time, right? But unfortunately, the answer to this was no. Actually, since we started dating, I found myself liking him even less than before. He does a lot of things that irritate me, such as the time he insisted we wear couple outfits to school. Yeah, slogan shirts with "he's mine, she's mine" printed on them should definitely be left in 2010. Ugh. He smugly ushered me around the school and seemed oblivious to the laughs and points in our direction. If only the ground could just open up and swallow me right away. That evening, noticing how fed up I looked, Margot asked me if everything was going all right between me and Charlie. So I told her everything. I thought she'd get mad at me again, but to my surprise, she just sighed and told me to tell the truth and break up with Charlie before things got too serious. That's the best way to stop both of us from getting hurt. And also, I've heard a lot of bad things about Charlie. People say he's kinda erratic. You better get this over with as soon as possible. Yeah, Margot's right. Next time I saw Charlie, I was ending this once and for all. Turns out I didn't have to wait long, because that Sunday afternoon, Charlie came to pick me up for our date. He told me he had a surprise in store for me, and I was gonna love it. Okay, it sounded like he'd gone to loads of effort, so it was probably best if I left picking up with him until the journey home. Almost there! Hearing what Charlie said, I looked out the window and... oh my god! Is that a bungee jumping spot? So, long story short, here I am, 200 meters off the ground, my legs trembling like a leaf and my heart thudding like crazy. I was about to cry out of fear when suddenly I heard romantic music playing behind me. I turned around to see Charlie getting down on one knee. Behind him was eagle-eyed staff holding roses and candles while swaying to the music. What's happening? I know we haven't been dating long, but it's clear that we're made for each other. Luna, will you marry me? What? Did I hear him wrong? I mean, I'm only 17. Seeing my puzzled look, Charlie hurriedly said, I know we're still in high school, but don't worry, we can wait till graduation. Then let's have the most wonderful wedding straight after that. This was insane. I stood there, rooted to the floor, not knowing what to do, and seeing everyone watching and waiting made me feel even more pressured. I was trying to figure all this out when Charlie forced the ring on my finger. Oh my god. What should I do? What should I do? Well, in classic me fashion, I didn't do anything. My stupid hand just froze in place, and in the end, it turned out like this. No, I couldn't let this happen. Charlie, actually, I don't have feelings for you. I was going to tell you today, but I didn't expect things to end up like this. You're kidding me, right? If you didn't like me, you wouldn't have let me put the ring on earlier. So I explained everything to Charlie. His face darkened with disappointment. I felt so guilty. I should have just been straight with him from the beginning, and none of this would have happened. We can still be friends, can't we? I asked, but Charlie replied without even looking at me. If you don't like me, then why give me hope? Why the emotionless tone? It felt like he turned into a completely different person. Afraid, I kept quiet, not daring to blurt out so much as a word. I'd be home soon and away from this suffocating atmosphere. But as Charlie drove, I noticed how the surroundings became stranger and stranger. This is definitely not the way to dormitory. Finally, the car stopped at an abandoned construction site. Luna, get out of the car. Sensing his irritable tone, I did as he said. You can stay here until you've figured out that we're destined for each other. Then call me. I watched in horror as he drove away and left me there. I was all alone, in the middle of nowhere. Panicked, I called Margot for help, but as soon as she picked up, my phone ran out of power. I explored the area, but it was completely deserted. Would I be stuck here forever without anyone knowing? It was getting late. I'd barely eaten or drank anything all day, and this felt hopeless. I burst into tears, and then everything felt dark around me. I woke up to the bright lights of the hospital. Margot jumped in to give me a hug and explained what had happened. Turns out that night after I called her, she checked my location on Snapchat and saw that I was in some deserted place. Sensing something was off, Margot and the dormitory manager went to find me and took me to the hospital. Charlie was disciplined and detained for a month for trouble he'd caused. After that horrible experience, I talked a lot with Margot. She comforted me, encouraged me, and said that it seemed like my desire to please others stemmed from childhood trauma. Perhaps it was my mother's words. If you want me to love you, you have to be nice. That created the character I have now. I couldn't continue to let the past consume me. That summer, when I returned home to see Mom, together, we poured out our feelings and faced our problems. I finally figured out that being nice to people wasn't a bad thing, but agreeing to things just to avoid disappointing people isn't the correct thing to do at all. Now, with Margot's help, I'm step by step learning to say no to things I don't want to do, 'cause life's way too short to say yes to everything. Don't you think?
Ew, there's a fly in my drink! That's so gross! I'm not paying for this! The kid shoved the cup of lemonade in my hand, then ran away. I just saw you drop it in, and it's not even a real fly! Hey, stop! I shouted after him, but it was too late. He'd gone, and now so had the rest of my customers. Dang it! That was the third time this week, and I knew exactly who was behind this. Michael! I glared over the fence, then charged towards his lemonade stand. Seeing his fake grin, I got even more furious that I poured the cup of lemonade over his sneakers, snatched a dollar bill out of his hand, and then walked off. You see, I'm Amy, and I'm the kind of girl who knows what she wants and gets what she wants. And what I want is for Mike to admit defeat and stop messing with my business. Ugh! I've been on this mission for the past 10 years. I kid you not, it's a literal war between us. It's not fun and games at all, especially now that we have our parents involved in this. You see, my parents and his parents are best friends. In fact, they're so close that I'm pretty sure back in the day, our moms planned their pregnancies together. So me and Mike were born only a week apart. And of course, I was born before him. So there's that. I've won right from the first round. In your face, Mikey! But even worse than the joint birthday parties, shared vacations, and being classmates with him for over a dozen years, I have to live next door to him too. Yep, our parents deliberately moved in next door as they thought raising us together would be fun. They dreamed of us being the best of friends like them. Ugh, no chance. Instead, our disliking for each other began at an early age. Whenever Mike came over, he would throw my Barbie dolls across the room, cut the hair off of them, or wrap my dollhouse in toilet paper. So I retaliated by turning his room into a Lego minefield. Ha! And then I drew flowers on his stupid face while he was napping. Our parents put this down to the cute little things kids did, but nothing about this was cute. This meant war. Our feud heated up once we started to go to school. Everything was a contest between us, from grades, school activities, and even just for the window seat on the school bus. Once, before the summer holidays started, our teachers suggested that over the break, we could have fun helping out our parents with some useful activities, like making homemade goods and selling them in our front yard. Upon hearing that, I caught Mike's challenging look and knew that this meant one thing. Okay then, game on. On the first day, I got up early to set up my lemonade stand out in my front yard. But then I looked to my left, and guess what I saw in dear Mikey's yard? Yep, a lemonade stand. Ugh! Why did he have to be such a copycat? We both seemed to attract lots of customers, but I don't know if it was just me, but it seemed like he was selling more than me. So, over the summer, I used my profits to upgrade my lemonade stand little by little, with eye-catching decorations, promotions, and I even added lemon snow cones to my menu. Finally, my queue seemed notably longer than Mike's. The snow cones were doing the trick. But then, a loud speaker sounded out from next door. Come and try my new iced tea! Handmade using my secret recipe! Try it today at an introductory half-price offer! To my utter dismay, most of the people in my queue left and went over to Mike's stand. Ugh, the sneak. Then worse, he started blasting out catchy tunes to catch people's attention. That summer ended, but it had kickstarted the entrepreneur dreams in our little hearts. So throughout the next summer breaks, we continued to grow our businesses. I expanded my stand to sell a selection of drinks, snacks, and fast foods, with delivery service too. Once, with my friend's help, we even included a car washing service. Another time, we opened a little creche in our garden so busy parents could drop their kids off for a couple of hours, and also grab a drink to go while they were there. Sounds good, right? But you know what? Whatever I sold, whatever I did, a couple of days later, Mike went and did the exact same thing. And then he had the cheek to accuse me of copying his ideas. Ugh, he was so annoying. Anyway, now at 17, what started out as a fun hobby expanded so much that I opened a mini diner in my garage. At first, it just made sense, as it meant I had customers regardless of the weather. Plus, there were also a few tables outside, and not to brag, but the seats were rarely empty. But then, of course, you guessed it, Mike went and turned his garage into a mini diner too. Ooh! Our diners became well-known hotspots in our neighborhood, and they proved so popular that our parents continued to run them all year round. I was mad that whatever I did, Mike went and did it too. Then, to bug me further, he sent his friends around on a Saturday, and they just sat there taking up all of the seats, while only ordering Cokes. So, I sent my friend Cynthia around to his diner, and she pretended to have food poisoning after eating their food. Then she proceeded to fake gag and ran to the restroom back and forth until the customers all freaked out and left. But then he started to spread negative feedback about our place on the internet, and I did the same in return. Ugh, there's no ending to this fight ever! But I will never back down. I knew Mike had a huge crush on this Stacy girl in his science class, and one time after school, I saw him leading her into his house, probably to bore her senseless, bragging about his lousy business again. So I quickly put on makeup and changed into a cute dress. It's showtime, baby. I went over to Mike's house right on time to see him serve Stacy some of his restaurant's signature dishes. I put on an act and jumped on him. You're cheating on me with this girl? She has nothing on me! How could you? I continued to make a scene, pulling on Mike's hair and screaming, until Stacy looked super awkward and made an excuse to leave. Result! But Mike didn't seem to see the funny side of this. I'd actually never seen him look this mad before. His ears went bright red, then he shouted at me. Amy, competition or not, Have I ever interfered in your private life? You've crossed the line this time. He knocked over the drink he'd made for Stacy, then sneered as he walked away. Seeing as you let yourself in, you can let yourself out. So, seemed like I'd won this round, but why didn't it feel good at all? And more like embarrassing. After that, Mike wouldn't even look me in the eye. Whatever. I mean, he would soon mellow down and mess with my business again anyway. Right? Then one day after school, I arrived home to find my parents sitting with some strange, professional-looking man. They called me over to join them. Then the man told me how he wanted to open a well-known fast food franchise in the neighborhood. Upon seeing me looking not really interested in what he was saying, he snidely remarked, "Come on, you get what I mean. It'd be ridiculous to have 3 fast food restaurants all in the same place, right? And let's face it, yours is just some fun little kiddie's hobby, which will never go anywhere. Take this." He held out an envelope. "And go focus on your grades. Just leave business to the adults." Furious, I snatched the envelope off of him. Yep, it was full of dollar bills. How dare he try and bribe me? What a jerk. So I threw it back at him, then stormed off. "Think about it, Amy," the man shouted after me. "Don't go making a decision you'll come to regret." The next day, when I arrived home from school, the man was sitting in my diner eating my awesome pancakes. Ugh, why couldn't he get the hint? I stormed over and told him to leave. He grinned at me, then said, "These are good. You know, I think there's room for both of our businesses. All you have to do is take some items off your menu." He gestured to the pancakes. "And spread some rumors about Mike's diner's hygiene not being up to scratch to close it down, and I'll let you keep your diner." Seeing my confused look, he added another push. "I'm only telling you this because I know you're a smart girl. Smarter than that boy. So, choose wisely." Well, that's true. I am smarter than Mike. But this was crazy. I spent all evening considering it. I mean, there's no way I could compete against a big-name franchise. But this way, I stood some sort of a chance, right? But as annoying as Mike was, could I really do this to him? At 2 a.m., I sat up in bed, still so torn about this all. I rushed next door and threw a stone at Mike's window. The light in his room turned on right away. Obviously, he was having a sleepless night too. He looked out and saw me, then he joined me on the porch, and we sat there in silence for a good while. Then he spoke up. "Ames, your pancake tower is amazing. Really?" Sighing, I replied, "Honestly, I drool just thinking about your double-deck burger. But if we don't take those dishes off our menus, I think that man will find a way to close us down." He shook his head. "Well, the Ames I know wouldn't quit that easily, right?" I let out another long sigh. "Yeah, but this is different. They're a big-name franchise. Our small little dining wouldn't be able to hold up for long, sooner or later." Then we fell back into this despairing silence. "I say we can do it. We can do it together." Mike suddenly stood up and pointed at our houses. "We have plenty of space to open up one big diner. Ha! What do you say?" Me and him working together? Would that ever work? But, well, nothing's impossible for big girl Amy. I grinned at him. "Bring it on. Let's fight till our last breath." So, the very next day, we joined forces and started preparing for the opening of the joint diner. Naturally, our parents were of course thrilled with the idea. They happily broke down the fences and even built a joint corridor to connect our houses together. We're now officially registered as one business and have all of our food, safety, and hygiene certificates. You know, the boring but official stuff. As for the franchise man, it turns out people in town are loyal to us. So when the story of his dirty tricks spread out, everyone said they'd boycott his restaurant if he ever opened it. So we never heard from him again. Huh, that's karma for you. And what happened next? Well, Mike and I are still running our business together, and it's going pretty well so far. It's a real family affair, with everyone helping out. Actually, it turns out running our own business together is far more fun than competing against each other. Maybe Mike isn't as bad as I always made him out to be. And sometimes I still claim myself to be his girlfriend when I catch a girl lurking around him. I guess he should learn to get used to having only one girl in his life. And thinking about it, I suppose that's always been me.
Hey, Daisy here. I'm just your normal 19-year-old college girl living away from home for the first time, and can't deny that it could get lonely sometimes, and I felt homesick a lot. But it's okay though, as I have Lucas, my loving boyfriend. Okay, yeah, his family is well off, so he always treats me to nice places and buys me nice gifts. A few months ago, he told me to move in with him in his family's mansion, and I've agreed. But don't get me wrong, I'm not a gold digger at all. I just had no other choice. It all started one night when thieves broke into my apartment while I was asleep. It was terrifying. I knew they were ransacking my living room and stealing my TV and laptop, but I'd rather stay put to protect myself. After that, I didn't want to be home alone at all anymore. Lucas, too, was worried for me, so one evening he told me, "Daisy, I think you should come live with me, at least until you find a roommate." Wow, I wasn't expecting that, but I guess it made sense. I felt a bit awkward about it, though, as I've only been to his house, or should I say his parents' mansion, a few times. And although there was plenty of space, and his parents adored me, but I didn't want to feel like I was intruding. Sensing my apprehension, he continued, "I've explained the situation to my parents, and they're cool with it." I smiled at him and replied, "Well, okay then, but it will just be temporary." Before I moved in with Lucas and his family, I felt very anxious. I wasn't sure if I'd be able to adapt to their lifestyle, and I didn't want to upset his parents. I worried a lot, but not once did I think my trouble would be with the maid. Yep, you heard me right. On my first day at the mansion, a cheerful woman immediately ran towards me and greeted me. Mrs. Harris introduced her to me. "This is our maid, Sarah. She's been with us for years, so if you have any problem, just ask her. We're all family here. Make yourself comfortable." Then Sarah quickly grabbed my suitcase and smiled at me. "Miss, let me help you with that. I'll show you to the room." It was so strange having someone else do stuff for me like this. I could just smile back and follow her upstairs. That made me feel so welcomed here, and how nice this maid was. Maybe we could be friends. But suddenly, a thump cuts off my thoughts. It was Sarah. She'd thrown my suitcase to the floor, then said, "What on earth do you have in there? Carry it yourself. Your room is down the hallway to the left." And she walked off. What was that? Did I do something wrong? I quickly picked up my stuff in confusion. I didn't want to make an enemy of anyone here, especially not on my first day. So after I unpacked my stuff, I went down to the kitchen to help her prepare dinner. She was still so grumpy at me and told me to just get lost as I'd only be in her way. I remained persistent as I really wanted to resolve whatever her misunderstandings about me were. Eventually, she gave in and said, "Fine, you want to help? Go dice up all of those onions." "Yes, sure, but all of these?" I asked her while staring at a basket full of onions. "Are you going to help me or not?" she said sharply. I replied, Okay, don't worry, I'll do it." I tried starting up a convo with her, but she just rolled her eyes at me. Meanwhile, the onions were giving me hell. My eyes were burning and tears were streaming out. Ouch! When I finally finished, she stared at my swollen eyes and said, "If you're that upset about living here, you could just leave." "It's the onions," I told her. She smirked as she took them off me, then walked straight to the trash and threw them away, saying, "You took too long. I didn't need it anymore." What? My face dropped, but I was far too exhausted to argue with her anyway. That's when Lucas and his parents came down for dinner. Sarah quickly set up the tables, then called me over with a bright smile as she pulled out a chair for me. "Miss Campbell, please take a seat. Dinner is ready." Was she for real? I couldn't keep up with her constant change in personality. After dinner, I approached Sarah while she was doing the dishes. "Look, I'm sorry, but did I do something to upset you?" "Yes, you sure did. You waltz around like you own the place, but you're nothing more than a parasite. And I won't let you worm your way into my home." Before I had time to process her words, she grabbed an expensive-looking marble plate and smirked at me as she dropped it onto the ground. Then, with a piece of broken plate, she quickly slit her hand and yelled out loud, "Miss, I'm so sorry for vexing you, but you shouldn't have broken this. It's Mr. Harris's favorite plate." Hearing the crashing sound, everyone quickly gathered in the kitchen and stared at me for answers. I immediately explained, "No, it's not like that." But Mrs. Harris said, "It's okay. Let's help Sarah first." Then she led her off to get the first aid kit. I grabbed Lucas's arm. "Babe, I really didn't do that." He reassured me with a smile. "Daisy, don't worry about it." "You don't understand. Sarah did it on purpose and blamed me." He laughed as if he'd just heard something ridiculous, then said, "No way. I bet it was just some sort of misunderstanding. Sarah is really nice. Don't worry, you two will get close in no time. Now let me clean up this mess. You go and relax." I felt frustrated and fed up, but I reluctantly went back to my room. This girl was definitely onto me. But for what reason? Over the following weeks, her vendetta against me continued. She washed my white clothes with colored ones, then intentionally threw away my stuff and made out she mistook it for trash while cleaning my room. She put extra hot chili flakes in my food, then rushed over with a glass of water when I started to choke, and so on. Worse still, Lucas and his parents wouldn't hear a bad word said against her. They were completely oblivious to how crazy she was. I didn't understand why she hated me so much. Was she jealous of me or something? All right then. If she wanted to play with me, then game on. So I decided to spy on her to catch her red-handed and show everyone her true self. My chance to expose her finally arrived. I was passing her room and I saw her holding a watch. I recognized it. It was Mr. Harris's. She looked shifty as she placed it into her drawer and hid it underneath some of her clothes. Aha! Got her! I quickly ran to the garden to find Mrs. Harris and managed to persuade her to come with me to Sarah's room. Sarah stood by looking all innocent as Mrs. Harris checked her drawer, but the watch wasn't there, and instead we found it still intact on the vanity in the master bedroom. Huh? At that moment, Sarah suddenly bawled out, "Ma'am, I would never steal from you. You know that. I've gone out of my way to please Miss Campbell here, but she's intent on making my life a misery." Oh my God. Those crocodile tears! Did she have no shame? I tried explaining myself to Mrs. Harris, but she held up her hand and told me she didn't want to hear it. I wanted to make amends, so the next morning, I prepared Mrs. Harris's favorite smoothie and breakfast for her. I set it up nicely on the dining table, then went upstairs to get her, smirking at Sarah as she passed by. Mrs. Harris seemed happy with the gesture, but just an hour later, she said she didn't feel well. She was clutching her stomach as she glared at me and blamed me for poisoning her food. What? How frustrating! And Lucas wasn't even home for me to talk to. So I went to the kitchen to check the expiration date of everything I'd used. But I swear it was all fresh. I even went through the trash to check the used milk carton. That's when I saw some sesame seeds in there. That's odd, as I knew Mrs. Harris was allergic to them, so we never had them in the house. It had to be Sarah. She must have poisoned the breakfast with them when I was out of the room. Later that day, Mrs. Harris was feeling better, so I went to see her and told her that I was leaving, on one condition. Then I persuaded her to come into my room and hide in my closet. By this point, I think she was willing to do anything just to get me out of her house. Then I called Sarah over to help me pack up my stuff. She stepped into my room with a cocky smile and knocked over the box of my stuff, then said, "I was always going to win." I replied, "Fine, you win. But before I leave, I want to ask you something. You put sesame seeds in the breakfast I made for Mrs. Harris, didn't you?" Sarah looked around to check no one else was about before she grinned at me and said, "Yes, it was me. All me. While you were sucking up to Mrs. Harris, I ground some up and mixed them into the disgusting smoothie you made. Oh, I also pretended to steal the watch because I knew you were spying on me. Geez, you made it so easy." "But why?" I asked. "But why?" She imitated my voice. "Because this is my family. I've lived here for years. You can't just show up all pretty and carefree and expect to have everything and push me out of my own home. I never wanted to push you out. All I wanted was to be your friend." As if. This is my gold mine, not yours. Sooner or later, all of this will be mine, and God knows I deserve it. I've put up with this annoying family and a poor salary for years. Mr. Harris always dreamed of having a daughter, but no, he's stuck with that dumb son of his. It's only a matter of time until he realizes I can be the daughter he longed for. Or, now that you won't be around, it'll be easy for me to trap Lucas by having his baby. Either way, the winner is always me. Suddenly, the wardrobe doors burst open and out emerged Mrs. Harris looking furious. She pulled Sarah's hair and dragged her out of the room. Wow, who knew the mild-mannered Mrs. Harris could be so kick-ass? I guess everyone has a hidden side. Anyway, this proved my innocence and Sarah was kicked out right on the spot. Then Mrs. Harris apologized to me and insisted that I should keep staying with them. I thanked her for the offer but politely declined. As I felt ready to leave and move in with my friend, I was just relieved that she'd learned the truth and that Sarah had gone once and for all. So, Lucas and I are still together and are very happy. Yes, it was annoying he didn't believe me at first, but he's such a sweet and trusting guy that he'd never expect someone could be capable of such horrible things. But hey, that's just one of the many reasons why I love him. As for his parents, well, I still visit them sometimes. I even cook for them now and then, but thankfully, there have been no more sesame seed incidents, and there's no more crazy maid to contend with. Phew!
So, finding out that my amazing adoptive parents were actually highly likely to be the biological parents of Lisa was a shocker. The clues were there, such as Lisa's flower bracelet turned necklace and her diamond-shaped birthmark that were identical to my adoptive parents' missing child's. Surely, this couldn't just be coincidence. Back in the orphanage, Lisa and I used to talk about our real families returning for us, but I put this down to childish naivety. I never believed it could actually happen. I kept my news a secret for a few days while I absorbed all this information. It was a life changer for us all. I couldn't shake the image of Mom sitting on the balcony sadly, looking through the old baby box she kept of her missing child. She'd missed out on years of her daughter's life. So if Lisa really was her missing daughter, then I didn't want to be the one to keep them apart any longer. The next day after school, I invited Lisa over. I sat them all down and told them my theory. I made Lisa show them her bracelet to her necklace and the diamond-shaped birthmark on the top of her right arm. This shocked both my adoptive parents and Lisa, but it also made loads of sense. Seeing Lisa next to them made me realize how much she looked like my adoptive mom. They took a DNA test, and it was a tense few days as they waited for the results. When they came back positive, my parents burst into tears and wouldn't stop hugging both Lisa and me. It wasn't long after this that I realized I hadn't thought this through properly. Why would my adoptive family want me when they now had their real kid back? Would they soon get sick of me and kick me out? Or would they do a trade-off with Lisa's adoptive family, and I'd be stuck in their poor household babysitting their little boy? My parents wouldn't quit going on about Lisa. They constantly asked how she was, blah, blah, blah. They never asked me about my day anymore. Instead, they wanted me to tell them everything about Lisa. They invited Lisa over all the time. She always seemed to be in my living room watching documentaries with Dad or in the kitchen helping Mom cook. One time, I arrived home late to find Lisa sleeping in my bed. This really bugged me, as she didn't live here. This was my adoptive family. She had her own. I went back to low-key hating Lisa again, like I did back when we'd been in the orphanage together. I was super nice to her face, but behind the scenes, I did little things to mess up her day and to make myself feel better. One time, I put her homework in the trash. Another time, I hid her jacket so she had to go out in the rain in just a thin sweatshirt, and I stuck used chewing gum in her pencil case. I know these things were mean of me to do, but I was so afraid of losing my new family to perfect Lisa. I just wanted them to love me, but I felt second best. One time after school, I was playing basketball with the boys at school. Then I saw my mom and dad come and pick up Lisa from school. They all looked so happy, laughing, talking to each other. Why had they picked her up and not me? I'm the one who actually lives with them. Ugh, why were they purposely leaving me out? I had flashbacks to being back in the orphanage and how Lisa's adoptive parents picked her over me. Why was it always her and not me? What was wrong with me? I felt so unloved, but most of all, I felt mad. I couldn't face going home and watching them play happy families, so I went and stayed at my friend's house. The more I thought about it, the more I didn't want to go back home. I tried to convince myself that it wasn't a big deal, because I've always been a stray cat since I was born, so I'd be just fine by myself. I knew I couldn't stay at my friend's forever, so my plan was to sneak home at midnight and pick up some stuff before I left this town for good. That night, as I got to the fence and about to climb in, I noticed the light on the balcony was still on. My mom was sitting there with a glass of wine and crying. Then Dad came comforting Mom and said, "She'll be home soon," and led Mom back inside. It was so heartbreaking to watch, and I felt so stupid for all of my selfish thoughts. They must be very upset, as the worst thing that had ever happened to them was losing a child, and now my disappearing act was making them relive it. They even adopted an older kid so this wouldn't happen, and I'd gone and run off like a spoiled brat. I swallowed my pride and walked into my house, where I saw that the living room was full of decorations and a fallen-down banner that read, "Thank you, Eva." My parents heard my footsteps, so they came downstairs, and as soon as they saw me, they both ran at me and hugged me so tightly. Then they burst into tears. It turned out that they'd only been picking Lisa up from school that day as they were throwing me a surprise party, thanking me for helping reunite them. But I never came home. They'd been terrified that they'd lost another kid, and they didn't think they could deal with the heartbreak again. I cried and told them all of my worries and thoughts about being left out and abandoned again, as Lisa was already picked over me once before. They said, "Silly, you're both our kids. If anything, we now love you even more because you're the angel who reunited this family. So, did they trade me with Lisa's family? Nah. Besides, Lisa and I are both off to college now. Lisa now has 2 loving families, and we're back to being the best of friends. In fact, I don't just view her as my friend. She's also my sister. Although we're still fighting to decide who the big sister is. She's older than me by 3 months, but I'm taller and bossier, so I maintain it's me. I had to wait a while to find my perfect family, but it turns out they were all definitely worth the wait.
Hey, Arnie here. I'm a freshman at college, and I guess you could call me a nerd. I mean, I'm fascinated by computers and techie stuff, and I'm majoring in computer science. I'm just a regular guy who would much rather spend my free time on my computer than out partying. I don't really care about my appearance. As I see it, clothes are clothes. So a slouchy t-shirt and jeans will do me. I also suck at socializing. I clam up and just end up talking nonsense. I guess that's why I usually stick to being in my own computer guy bubble. Well, at least I did until I met Camilla. I'd never had a girlfriend before, which, given my awkwardness, was no great surprise. My first meeting with Camilla, well, it didn't go all that well. I was running late from my study group in the library, so I was rushing up the stairs and I bumped straight into Camilla, who was reading a book while walking down the stairs. I watched on horrified as she fell down the stairs. She fractured her ankle, and I felt so guilty and blamed myself for this. After that, I tried being the good guy and helping her out. I offered to carry her bag to class, but she huffed out. "Could you please stay away from me? I don't need your help, okay?" Then she glared at me. Another time I bumped into Camilla while she was sitting on the grass and passionately reading Twilight. So I bought her a signed copy of the second book in the series. She stuck her nose up at me, told me that book was so last decade, then limped off. I guess she was still mad at me for the accident. But then the next time I saw her, she was reading the book I gave her. She giggled, then said to me, "Okay, this is actually a really neat gift, thanks." After that, we started talking more, and I even helped her out with her studying. I'd never met a girl like Camilla before. She was so gentle, girly, and pretty. But like my thing was computers, her thing was books. She adored them, and she always had her head in a book. I admired this about her. A girl who reads as many books as she did must have a beautiful soul. I found myself falling for her, but being the awkward guy I am, I didn't think I stood a chance. Then one time after I'd finished helping her study, she leaned over and kissed me. Trust me, no one was as shocked about this as me. Not long after, we became an official couple, and at first everything was great. However, Camilla gradually became more and more addicted to her reading. She loved romance fiction, from the classics such as Pride and Prejudice, to more modern affairs such as The Fault in Our Stars. She loved them all. There were days she got so caught up in these fictional worlds that she read from night till early next morning, and she even missed college because she was too tired to go. We went to the library a lot to study together. Well, I studied, she usually stared dreamily out the window, lost in whatever fictional world was currently occupying her mind. And when I'd called her name, she never answered. After she finished each book, she went into this depressive state. It's like she couldn't deal with reality. After she'd finished reading The Notebook, she moaned that I wasn't handsome and attentive like Noah. I tried to ignore her, but then she finished reading the second book in the To All the Boys I've Loved Before series and shouted at me that Peter not only pampers his girlfriend, but he also plays sports and has a six-pack. She told me I should start working out and stop eating so much chocolate. Okay, so her comment did hurt. I always sucked at sports and was self-conscious about my lanky frame. So I started going to the gym to please Camilla. She seemed happy about this and mentioned something about being proud of having a boyfriend who was good at both studying and sports, just like the handsome guys in romantic fiction. But honestly, I didn't like the gym all that much. My friend was on the basketball team, so I told him I wanted to join. Yeah, I hated it, but Camilla thought it was very impressive. During my first game, she stood at the side of the court and shouted, "Baby, I love you! Come on! I know you can do it, honey!" OMG, talk about cringeworthy. I knew she was very proud seeing me playing basketball, so it made me full of energy and I just longed for scoring. I was so nervous that I accidentally scored in the wrong net. Suddenly, she disappointedly shouted, "Oh no, Edward would never have embarrassed me like that." And that's when all of my teammates turned to me and laughed frantically, which made me really embarrassed. I threw the ball against the playground and walked to her angrily and asked, "Edward? Who's Edward?" Then I stormed off, leaving her there watching me in shock. I was so sick of being compared with some handsome guy in her fictional world, and sporty things were not an exception. I couldn't take it anymore. The more I participated in sporty things, the more I realized how much I hated them. I pined for computer algorithms. I wasn't a jock, no. I was the nerd who got a thrill from staying up all night writing code. That weekend probably she wanted to make it up, so she asked me to go to the cinema to see some romance film. I was a bit cooled off, so I agreed. I showed up outside her place to pick her up and my phone beeped. It was Camilla telling me she'd be reading all day, now she was too tired to go. Besides, she'd reached the climax of her book and it was too compelling to put down. I was furious. I stormed back to my place. It felt like Camilla preferred these make-believe guys to me, her actual boyfriend. The next morning, I was still pretty mad. When I explained to Camilla how I felt, she started crying. Then she told me it was my fault for not caring about her last night, as she said she was tired. She wanted a hunk to bring her food, pamper her, and look after her. I couldn't believe what she was saying. Just because I wasn't as dashing as some fictional character guy didn't mean I didn't look after her. How dare she even say otherwise? I know this was crazy, but the problem is I really do love Camilla. So I came to the conclusion that if she wanted some perfect guy, I could be him, right? That evening, after a long day with loads of studying to do, I was about to take a bath, and Camilla texted me, "Bae, I want to eat spaghetti, but it's raining outside." So even though I was tired, I rushed up to buy it for her and brought it to her place. You should have seen her face. She was extremely happy. Seeing her happy made my heart melt. Everything was good, but I ended up being sick. Blech. The next day, Camilla came to my place to look after me. She made me soup and helped me eat it. I ended up falling asleep, and when I woke up, she'd gone. I didn't think that much of this at the time, but then 3 days later, she still hadn't responded to any of my calls or messages. Finally, she answered my call and told me the reason why she was mad. Turns out she imagined herself as the main character in the romantic fiction book she just read. In that story, when the handsome guy got sick and his lover came to visit him, that's when she was feeding him, he kissed her. So she expected me to do the same, only I fell asleep instead. I didn't know whether to laugh or cry. This was crazy. How could she expect me to be romantic when I was trying my hardest not to throw up? We arranged to meet at a cafe. There I told her how I felt. I just can't do this anymore. I can't be some sporty, handsome, sword-fighting charmer. I'm just a regular geeky me. Accept me for me or it's over. She apologized and began crying. She told me she just got so carried away with the scenarios in her books that she'd try her hardest to be a better girlfriend. A week passed by and Camilla seemed a little better. Then one time when we were outside the college, she pointed over at this sophomore guy and told me she was going to allow him to pursue her because in most romantic fiction books, the main female character usually had 2 guys competing for her. If I could beat this Zach guy off, then it proves I love her. If not, it must mean I never loved her in the first place. What? I stared at her open-mouthed. She'd definitely gone too far this time. I told Camilla I wasn't playing her dumb games anymore, then I stormed off. The next day I saw her talking to that Zach guy. Whatever he was saying to her was making her laugh, and she was twirling her hair around her finger and giggling. Great. Not only was this guy good-looking, but he was charming too. He resembled the gallant hero, while I was more like the villain. The problem is, I still love Camilla. How can I get her to realize that romance fiction fever is just that, fiction? Even though I might not be some handsome hero who leaves flower petal trails all over the house, I'm still a good guy who just wants to look after her.
Jaden was taken aback for a second, then calmly said, "You're right. Sorry. I'll back off. Being the third wheel all this time hadn't gotten me any info on Mike's dad anyway. He really was laying low, and maybe Mike didn't even know anything about what his father was doing. The FBI might need to find another way to approach this investigation." Little did Jaden know, Jasmine had become an unexpected factor in his investigation plan. After that time, Jasmine and Mike had private dates, just the two of them, but they left Jasmine feeling more and more distant from him. Why does this wig have to be so long? And these freaking shoes! Why do girls want to torture themselves with these things? Jasmine thought about the last time she was with Jaden, how she just removed the stupid heels and enjoy being carried by him. But of course, that could never happen in front of Mike. Jaden has kept his promise and leaves us alone, but why do I feel like something is missing? You look really beautiful today. That necklace is divine. Yeah, I got it from my dad's antique cabinet this morning. Guess it once belonged to some ancient Egyptian queen. My dad has a bunch of these. Oh, really? How come? Well, he developed a very deep passion for collecting antiques and has filled our whole house with all kinds of stuff. Interesting. Just then, Mike knew exactly what to do with rich and naive Jasmine while she's still totally oblivious to it. That night, Jasmine struggled to fall asleep. She wondered how Jaden could just disappear into thin air like that. Fine, don't let me see you again. I'll make you watch me eat 10 buckets of fried chicken and then force you to run 10 laps while carrying me. Jasmine didn't realize, however, that behind her inexplicable frustration toward Jaden, she actually missed him. The next day, as soon as Jasmine arrived at school, Mike approached her urgently. Have I mentioned I'm turning 16 this weekend?
No, you haven't. Any special plans for your big day then?
Yes, actually. That's why I came to find you. I want to make sure you had enough time to put together the most stunning outfit, because I'd like you to meet my father there. You must make a good impression on him.
Wow. I'm gonna need to think about it, okay? After that, Jasmine looked everywhere for Jaden, but couldn't find any trace of him. Jaden, where on earth have you been?
That evening, while Jane was discussing the current situation with his partner, he was surprised to see Jasmine's figure at the door. How did she find her way here?
How dare you go AWOL for the past few days? Do you realize how many excuses I needed to give the student supervisor just to get your address?
Then Jasmine began to tell Jaden about her latest date with Mike, how she felt that Mike's not the right match for her, and that Mike wanted to introduce her to his father at Mike's birthday party.
I think I need to break things off before any family gets involved.
However, after the FBI team hit a dead end because they couldn't get any intel, Jaden realized this party was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for them to catch the thief. Wait, you can't give up so soon. You were so determined to win Mike over before. Don't just dump him over cold feet. At least wait until after the party to make your decision.
Yeah, you're right. I'll go to the party.
After that, Jasmine left. She was trying not to feel the sadness building inside her, but the night that she and Jaden nearly kissed played on repeat in her head.
Would things be different if I just confessed my feelings to Jaden? I should let him know how I feel about him.
So Jasmine headed back to Jaden's place. When she was almost there, she saw him seeing someone off.
Huh? There was another person at his house? Why didn't I see him just then?
Jasmine quickly behind a wall, out of sight. That party is surely our golden ticket, and we thought you going undercover as Jaden and giving that dude a makeover was all in vain. He's a she. Her name is Jasmine. Oh, did someone catch feelings? Don't forget that you're an FBI agent, James. Jaden, that is.
Jasmine couldn't believe what she just heard and saw.
When the man left, she stormed right over to Jaden.
What were you going to tell me about your double life, James?
I wish I could tell you everything, but I really can't. But I won't deny what you did here. I'm an FBI agent, and I've been undercover as a high school student to follow Mike. Jasmine, please listen to me. I'll tell you everything when the right time comes.
So I was just a tool that you used to get closer to Mike, and since that didn't work, you're done with me?
No, that's not.
And why Mike? What do you need from him?
I can't tell you anything else right now, but please just be careful around him, okay? He's not as nice as he tries to seem. I'm going to send FBI agents to keep an eye on you at the party.
No, you will not. You won't do anything because you and the FBI are going to leave me alone.
Jasmine, please. As much as it hurt to look at him again, Jasmine turned back around.
My friends call me Goody, but I guess you would know.
While Jasmine was still mad at Jaden, she couldn't help questioning why the FBI had to send people to follow Mike. Suddenly, she remembered the overheard conversation. That party was surely a golden ticket, and we thought you going undercover as Jaden and giving that dude a makeover was all in vain.
Maybe I could find the answer at Mike's birthday party.
In the following days, Jaden relentlessly tried in every way to make amends with Jasmine. He messaged her on every social platform, from Facebook to Instagram to Twitter, and she blocked him on each one. He flew paper planes that read, "I'm sorry," into Jasmine's room, but she just stared coldly at him through the window while tearing the planes all up and throwing them in the trash. One morning, Jasmine woke up and even found a dove delivering Jaden's apology letter, but she completely ignored it still. Mike's birthday party finally came.
Why do I feel so unsettled? Maybe it was because of Gary's hamburger this afternoon?
Meanwhile, Mike was also lost in his own thoughts. Will Dad be able to get on with the plan? I wonder what disguise he'll show up in. Right then, Tiffany approached them.
Mike, I have a present for you.
Mike opened the envelope to find pictures of Jasmine from when she was a tomboy.
I just wanted to remind you of the person you're really dating.
I don't care about who she was before, because I love who she is now, my amazing girlfriend. Jasmine felt partly appreciative of Mike's feelings for her, but she was also exhausted from the pressure of trying to be someone she wasn't.
If only you knew this isn't the real me.
As they walked away, Mike leaned in close and whispered in Jasmine's ear, "Let go meet my dad, privately." Jasmine followed Mike to the rooftop, but she saw nobody when they got there.
Where is he?
Just be patient. He always shows up on time. At that moment, a kind-looking old man appeared. Jasmine looked around in confusion, wondering where he had come from. Before she could introduce herself, he started to speak. "So you must be a lovely Jasmine. Mike has told me so much about you. I heard your father is a famous collector of antiquities."
Yes. You know my dad?
I know he has something that's truly coveted. Jasmine had no idea what he's talking about. She turned to Mike and saw him mouthing, "It's you. Come here, girl. I have a gift for you. A diamond ring that's perfect for your delicate hands." Jasmine hesitated, but somehow she found herself slowly reaching out her hand. Just before her hand could reach his, there was a rustling sound. Rat! Suddenly, there was a loud explosion and smoke filled the air. Jasmine fell to the ground, unconscious. Jaden rushed in and saw Mike's father disappear into smoke as they fled. His head told him to chase them, but seeing Jasmine lying on the ground, he immediately ran to Jasmine and carried her out of there. Jasmine woke up and saw her dad and 3 brothers anxiously standing around. Through their accounts, she knew that an anonymous message had been sent to her father last night, demanding he hand over a precious necklace in exchange for Jasmine. The police confirmed that the sender of that threatening message is a career thief. But I wonder how he knew our family had that necklace. Jasmine recalled wearing that necklace to see Mike and revealing to him that her dad was an antique collector. Could that very thief be... Remember, he's been doing this for a long time. They call him the Phantom Thief. Surely he has a talent for sniffing out valuable items and evading the police. Unfortunately, it's the same this time. Actually, that young police officer could have caught him, but he chose to save your sister. Our family owes him big time.
Is that young police officer Jaden? Later, Jaden came to visit Jasmine at the hospital. Can you tell me the truth now? Is the FBI chasing a career criminal who is none other than Mike's dad?
You're right, because he works in mysterious ways. I had to approach him through his son, Mike.
So why didn't you arrest him when you had the chance? Weren't you just waiting for that moment?
Because you were in danger. At that moment, I could only think about getting to you.
All right, I'll give you that one. Can you tell me what you found out? Maybe I can help.
Then Jaden told Jasmine that through spying on Mike, he discovered that Mike was his father's informant. Mike would scour rich girls, then point out the targets his father who'd steal their valuables. That's why Mike had targeted Tiffany before. But as soon as he learned she was a fake rich girl and Jasmine was the real deal, he switched his focus to Jasmine. I am so sorry I kept the truth from you for so long. I really care about you. I was trying to keep you from getting hurt, and you did anyway. I'm sorry. I hope you can forgive me.
You did save my life after all. I think we can call it square. So, what's our next move then?
I really don't know.
I might have an idea.
Elsewhere, Mike and his dad were scheming. I didn't expect that sissy Jaden to be in the FBI. Don't worry, I know how to deal with him.
The next day, reports of antique auction flooded the news.
A once-in-a-lifetime exhibition, all from one man's private collection, will be auctioned to the highest bidder. The collection includes antiquities from all over the world, including a necklace said to belong to Cleopatra. Its estimated value is over $100 billion.
The streets were also plastered with billboards and banners about that auction.
In the evening of the auction, all VIPs of the upper class gathered in the hotel's main lobby to prepare for the big event. In addition, hundreds of security guards and police officers were hired to guard the auction jewelry 24/7. Before the start of the auction, Jasmine's dad gave a welcome speech to all the guests. Ladies and gentlemen, I am honored to welcome you all to today's event. As you know, I collect antiques as a hobby, so to share some of the joy this collection has brought me, the profit from today's auction will be donated to the orphanage. Sir, is it true that Cleopatra's necklace will also be auctioned today? That's right. However, it's not here. It's currently being kept in a very secure place that even a mosquito can get through, and will be presented during the final round. Aren't you afraid that the Phantom Thief, Master of Disguise, will steal it? Well, he can certainly try me. The whole crowd burst into laughter. Without knowing, from a corner, an elegant lady was watching them all with a smirk on her face. At 9 o'clock sharp, while the sound of the auction echoed through the hotel's halls, someone in a black shirt and wearing a backpack appeared at the door, trying to put a key in the lock. Freeze! Hand over your head! Busted, you thief! I'm not... In the lobby, chaos reigned after it became known that the Phantom Thief approached the treasure. Jasmine was extremely nervous too. Before long, a police officer went onto the stage. Please don't worry, the thief was apprehended by the police while trying to open the door. The auction will continue as scheduled. Everyone felt relieved, and the room erupted into applause. At that moment, the elegant yet mysterious lady walked toward the elevator quietly, heading to the penthouse. She then swiftly snuck into the room and retrieved the necklace with ease. Those stupid cops must be bringing that fool down to station right now. She then put the box into her bag and left the room. Suddenly, an old janitor bumped into her. I'm terribly sorry, miss. The elegant lady grumbled, then used the emergency exit to rush up the rooftop. On the roof, a helicopter was already waiting, with Mike inside. Mike's dad quickly gave him the necklace. Just when the helicopter got off,
Policemen came rushing to catch him. "We finally got you, weasel! Ha ha! I've still got the necklace. I win again, you fools. Oh, you mean this necklace? What? How could you?" It turned out that Jaden had swapped the box. We bumped into each other in the hall. Upon this admission, in the helicopter, Mike eagerly opened the box, which turned out to be just a jumping jack toy. No! After the police took Mike's dad away, Jasmine and her dad rushed to Jaden. "Thank you so much for saving my daughter and still catching the thief."
Thank you for all your help. We couldn't have caught him if you didn't fabricate this event.
This whole thing was Jasmine's idea, and the event itself was fake. All the antiques auctioned tonight were real, and those proceeds will still go to charity.
We did it.
You're right. We did it. Whatever happened with the other thief who got caught earlier? Oh, he was hired to distract the FBI, but we knew from the start he wasn't our thief. Luckily, the arrest announcement was just the thing we needed to get Mike's dad to make his move and to make him think he was going to get away with it. Now I just need to know how you switch those boxes so smoothly. Are you a magician too? Nope, I'm just me.
Next day, Jaden finally had some time alone with Jasmine,
And it was finally time to tell her the rest of everything. It might not be my place to say, but I understand how you've been feeling. Trying to be someone? Heck, it's my job. But it's not your job to change to make other people like you. The right people are the ones who love you for who you really are. People like, me.
Jasmine was touched. She had so many things she wanted to say, but she was simply speechless. She turned to Jaden,
And upon seeing just his side profile, she blushed. Are you okay? Jasmine was going to respond, but she hiccuped again. I think I know what to do.
Hi, Ken here. I'm a breast specialist doctor. I'm trying not to be shy when I'm telling you this. It may be a bit awkward talking about my career, but because of it, or due to it, my life turns to be a drama. Well, I appreciate how hard it is for my patients to visit me. Let's face it, taking your clothes off in front of a stranger isn't easy for anyone. Yes, trust me, I've seen it all before, and it's no big deal. I'm just doing my job. I first met Gemma in my surgery. She'd found a lump and wanted me to examine it. When I checked it with my hand, this startled her, and her natural reflexes caused her to punch me in the face, and I passed out. I woke up a few minutes later to find both her and a nurse gawking down at me. My nose was still bleeding. I must have looked the right sorry state. She kept on saying sorry, but I reassured her that it was quite all right. And then with her permission, I continued with the examination. I found something, so I carried out a biopsy, and in the end, I had to tell her that she had breast cancer and needed to have a mastectomy. I could see her getting quite upset. I got used to patients' tears as they heard bad news. But this girl was so strong and brave. She just asked me some questions about the surgery and calmly left. Then, to my surprise, she impressed me more day by day. For the next few weeks, she brought me lunch every day. I thought she was worried I might bear a grudge for her punch or something, and this was her way of making it up to me. The food she brought was delicious, and I have to admit, seeing her was the highlight of my day. She was so kind-hearted and strong. What she was going through was horrible, but she never let it get her down. Instead, she walked over to my room with a skip in her step and a smile on her face. Soon, I fell in love with her, and I knew she felt the same way, as our chemistry was obvious. But she was my patient, and I had my career to think about, so I knew I needed to be careful. Still, I couldn't seem to resist her or her cooking. I was busy at the hospital all day, so I never had time to date, while she was a martial arts instructor for kids and only worked in the evening, so she had a lot of free time. So she cooked lunch for me every day and brought it to the hospital to eat with me. Even after her successful mastectomy, she still showed up with food. That was when I couldn't stop myself from confessing my feelings for her, and she said yes. Sometimes she had to wait many hours until I finished seeing my patients at the surgery. When she was asleep waiting for me, she looked like a little kitten. But gradually, that kitten turned into a tiger, and I soon discovered that this tigress bites. Ouch. Things were complicated talking about my duties at work. My patients are mostly female, and when I see them, I need to, what I have to do. Of course, Gemma also knows this because she's been examined many times already. She always fantasized that I would fall for another girl, one who in her eyes was complete. I tried reassuring her that I loved her and only her. Surgery or not, in my eyes, she was perfect. But regardless of how many times I told her this, she failed to believe me. She had a point that no girl could accept her boyfriend touching other women in their things, and even discussing that with them daily. I told her, normally the human body is a beautiful product of nature, but in the eyes of a doctor like me, it's just the same mass of meat. Would you find a chunk of meat beautiful? Isn't that shivering to think like that? Then she argued, so in your eyes, I'm just some chunk of meat, huh? Ugh. I tried telling her it wasn't like that, but geez, she's stubborn. It took me ages to calm her down. Every day she showed up at the hospital and glared at me as the beautiful young women came in and out of my room. Her actions hadn't gone unnoticed by the nurses, who told me that she was making the patients feel uncomfortable with her scanning eyes and judgmental expressions. I told them it was nothing. She was just going through a hard time, that's all. And please be understanding that it was natural for her to compare herself to other women. As I told them that, I was not sure if I could stay sympathetic for her coming behaviors. That afternoon during a late lunch, Gemma asked me if the 8th girl entering my room was beautiful. Oh my Jesus, the only person I can remember was the one who walked out of the room 5 minutes ago. I only remembered that was the one with the cyst, but I didn't remember her face. Why do you have to think so long? Are you recalling her figure? You just need to say she's not beautiful, right? I muttered out, yes, right. Not beautiful at all. She frowned at me. That means you still remember her. What about her impressed you so much? I stiffened. What was wrong with women? A week later, when she brought me lunch, she asked me, do you and the red dress girl know each other? As she'd been here at least 3 times in a row already. Every time she dresses very well. Whoever wears a red dress to the hospital? Isn't it normal for patients to come see the doctor regularly? No, it's not normal. I want to see her files. The 3rd person from the bottom up. Come on, you know I'm not allowed to do that. You were not allowed to eat either. Gee, this was ridiculous. She wouldn't quit though, so in the end, I gave in and showed her the records. This girl had just had breast augmentation surgery, so that was why she came to be checked so often. Emma just grinned and said, I knew it! Those are fake! I thought this would be the end of the matter, but it turns out it was just the beginning. Gemma bombarded me with questions about the red dress girl, such as did I find her attractive? I told her what I believed she wanted to hear, such as she was the only girl for me, and so on. But curiously, during the following days, she stopped going to the hospital. She just texted me a few messages every day and disappeared. Maybe I should have chosen to be a specialist in psychology, as I may have been a good doctor, but I had no idea what women were thinking. A month passed, and she didn't show up at the hospital at all. I was so relieved at first, but couldn't stop wondering what my sassy girl was planning to do. Meanwhile, it was strange that the red dress girl popped up more and more, even though her health was completely fine. Then one day, she turned up saying she had pain and itching. I scanned and tested her, but couldn't find the cause. Hey lady, you are healthier than me. If you are not sure, please do a checkup once a month, or I can also refer you to another hospital. Where's your girlfriend? She interrupted me. Sorry? She told me to wait and see, but I can't wait anymore. Where is she? Huh? What's going on? Just then the door opened and in barged Gemma. Oh my God. She looked like a different person. She was dressed so sexy, not cute like before. As a doctor and as her boyfriend, I immediately realized that she'd got breast implants. Before I could speak, a man stepped in and put his hand on her hip. Then he gave a confused look as he looked at the patient and immediately removed his hand from Gemma's hip. What the hell is going on here? I demanded to know. Gemma stared at the girl and said, I told you that if you continued to deliberately flirt with my boyfriend, I wouldn't leave it alone. The man, who was the same age as my dad, looked at Gemma. What flirting? Then he looked over at the other girl. You cheating on me? Then the red dress girl grinned at him and said, Who is the cheater now? What? They two were a couple or something? But what was my girlfriend doing here? Gemma turned to the man. She started it first. I have proof. I have taken pictures of the time she approached my boyfriend. If you two get divorced, you will need it. You will not want to divide your property with a wanderer, right? I shouted out, What the hell are you doing? The man looked at Gemma. You played me? You seduced me just because she flirted with her boyfriend and you wanted revenge? God, the door was still open and doctors, nurses, and patients came to see this chaos. They just pointed and thought this was a jealous scene. So it transpired that Gemma tried warning the red dress girl off me, and when that didn't work, she tracked down her husband and seduced him, and she even got breast implants for that silly plan. OMG, she was crazy. After that incident, I was severely disciplined for affecting the image of the hospital and was forced to work at a volunteer clinic in Mexico for 6 months without any payment. Yup. Now, I'm in Mexico to pay the price of the mistake of... No. What was my fault? I didn't do anything. So the moral of the story is, don't get involved with a patient, however good their cooking is. Trust me, it's so not worth it.
Hey you! Quit standing there and come clean my locker already! You're destined to be a maid, just like your mom! Suddenly, a whole group of kids erupted into laughter, and I just froze. I glanced back, wondering how they knew my secret, but then I realized they were mocking some other girl. Phew, what a relief! This new school seemed intense, and when I walked into the classroom, 3 of my new classmates wouldn't stop staring at me. But I just ignored them. But at lunch, one of them came over to me and said, "I guess your family is super rich, right?" I didn't know what to say, so I just replied with, no, they're kinda normal. Why? Then he raised his voice. "How dare you try to sit here then? This is our table! Move!" I immediately got up and ran to an empty seat on the corner table. That's when some kid told me that the 3 rich kids were Brent, Sophia, and Jasmine. He told me that the best way to stay out of trouble was to avoid them at all costs, because their parents basically funded the whole school, and so everyone had to respect them. But I couldn't avoid them, because the very next day, Sophia came running up to me and said, "Why do you keep your family a secret? Come on, spill!" I freaked out. Why did she suddenly ask me that? But then Jasmine appeared and said, "Girl, that bag you wore yesterday is totally sold out. How did you get your hands on one?" Oh, right. They were probably talking about my Insta post from yesterday. And so I said, "Oh, my dad bought it for me in Paris." Sophia's eyes went wide and she said, "OMG, your dad is so cool. Why are you wearing it today?" Shoot, they were going to catch me out. I had to think fast. My parents don't want me to show it off, so they said I can't bring it to school." Sophia and Jasmine burst out laughing and said my family sounded cool but weird. If only they knew the truth. The bag wasn't even mine. It was just from a modeling job I did to make some extra pocket money. In fact, my parents were super poor. My mom worked as a maid and my dad was a security guard. Obviously, I couldn't afford fancy designer bags, but the rich kids didn't need to know that, right? At lunch, I saw them walking towards my table, and Brent said, "What do your parents do?" "Just tell us. We won't tell anyone." I told them my dad was the CEO of a big fashion company, and my mom worked at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. I wasn't proud of my lie, but the alternative was being treated like the girl I saw on my first day at this school, and I didn't want that at all. They all looked amazed, and Jasmine said, "That makes sense why you're so pretty and smart." Then Brent jumped in and said, "But then why are you a scholarship kid, I just smiled and kept quiet. I couldn't think of a good lie and didn't want to take this any further. I thought they would leave me alone after that, but they kept approaching me and even started to ask me to join them at the rich kids' table. I couldn't say no, but when they asked me to hang out on weekends, I made up excuses. Not because I didn't want to join, but because there was no way on earth I could afford it. I didn't even dare to ask my parents, as they were working so hard to save up for my college tuition. I was so afraid of my lies catching up with me, so whenever I modeled for high-end stuff, I'd post a pic to my Insta. One time, I shared a photo of me wearing super expensive heels and captioned it, "Thanks, Dad, love you." Sometimes, I even took it to the next level and edited travel photos, so it looked like I'd spend the weekend in Paris. And one time, I even photoshopped me driving in a Lamborghini. It was a lot of effort, but it was better than being mocked for being poor, like what happened to me in my last school. I couldn't go through that again. One time, I decided to go shopping with them, and it was crazy to watch them buying everything in sight without even thinking about it. I couldn't even dream of a life like that. But when we got to the bag shop, Jasmine pointed to a fancy-looking bag and said she'd bought it yesterday. Then she asked me, "You probably already have it, right?" I just grinned and said, "Yep, my mom bought it for me last time she was in Milan." But then Jasmine said, "Yay! Okay, cool. So let's both wear them on Monday. everyone will be jealous. That weekend, I felt sick. I had to buy that bag. I decided to raid my piggy bank, but when I got to the shop, I realized I only had 1/10 of the amount needed. I was so shocked. Who would spend that much on a bag? While I was standing there, a woman came in and bought it without hesitation. Why was it so easy for rich people? I decided to follow her just out of curiosity and saw her going to the restroom. I couldn't believe it. She just left her new bag by the sink and then went into the cubicle. I looked around and saw the coast was clear, so I quickly grabbed the bag and walked out of the restroom. I ignored the guilt about stealing it from her and headed home. All I could think about was what would happen if I walked up to school on Monday without the bag. But as soon as I reached my room, the regret was eating away at me. Would I go to jail if they find out? My parents would kill me. Well, Monday morning rolled around, and I proudly wore my new bag to school. Brent, Jasmine, and Sophia were so surprised and said I had the limited edition version, which was twice the price as the normal one. This made me feel even more guilty. But from the looks I got all day, it was worth it. Everyone saw me as one of the rich kids now. Soon it would be summer vacation, and Brent said he had a holiday house in Hawaii and suggested we all go for 1 week together. No way I could afford that. So I lied and said I had to go to Paris with my dad for an event. But then Jasmine said her parents were away, so we could have a party at her house instead that weekend. She suggested we dress up and said she couldn't wait to see my clothes I wore outside of school. Oh no, I was dreading this. Brent said he would pick me up at home and drive me there, but I told him to meet me at school instead, as my parents were so strict. Oh my gosh, all of this lying was making me feel exhausted. But no way could I let them see my dilapidated old house, especially as I'd lied and told them we lived in a villa with a pool and golf course. My lying was becoming a big problem. I mean, where would I get a dress from? I lay there worrying about it, and suddenly I heard my parents talking in their room. My mom was saying she'd finally saved enough to send me to college and asked my dad if he could deposit it in their bank tomorrow, as she had to work at some party. Then she said she'd been keeping it in her closet for safekeeping. I thought about it for a while. I mean, the money was for me anyways, right? So what harm would it do if I just took it now? The next morning, I snuck into their room and took all of the money and rushed out to the mall to buy a gorgeous purple dress and sparkly shoes. This was absolutely the life that I deserved. After that, I took an Uber to school, where Brent, Jasmine, and Sophia picked me up. I had like a million missed calls from my mom and dad, but I ignored it and turned my phone off. I just wanted to enjoy a full day living like a true rich kid. Brent drove us towards Hampton's Country Club, and I couldn't believe it. Jasmine's family owned this place. Wow! When we arrived, a valet came over, but Brent was so rude to him, he shouted at him and said, "Listen, buddy, this car cost $4 million. If you even leave one tiny mark, you'll be paying for it for the rest of your life." I turned around to see the valet's reaction. Then my jaw almost hit the floor. It was my dad! He saw me and looked surprised, but before he could say anything, we walked off. We hung out in the country club for a bit, then in the evening, we drove to Jasmine's house. Her place was insane. She had a tennis court, her own cinema, and don't even get me started on how many cars her family owned. We sat down to eat in the dining room, and I kid you not, there were 4 maids waiting to serve us. We each had our own one. I was too busy being shocked to notice my maid walking towards me, but then I heard a familiar voice. "Sweetie, what are you doing here?" "Mom?" I was horrified. The party she'd mentioned yesterday. This was the party! Oh no, this was a disaster. Jasmine looked surprised and said, "Do you know her?" So I said, "Oh, she used to be a maid at our house." My mom looked crushed and said, "A maid? How could you say that?" Then Jasmine got annoyed and said, "Don't you dare speak to my guest like that. Get out of my sight." My mom ran off, almost in tears, and for the next little while, Brent and Sophia treated her terribly too. Brent even asked her to clean his shoes. My mom was being treated like this all because of me. I could see she was really upset, and she accidentally dropped some sauce on Jasmine's dress. And then Jasmine just lost it. She pushed my mom and screamed, Are you crazy? Do you know how much this dress cost? Well, that was it. I'd had enough. I ran over and helped her up. Mom, are you okay? Mom? Jasmine, Brent, and Sophia all shouted. So I said, yes, she is my mom. And how dare you treat her like that? Tears were pouring down my cheeks, and I felt so humiliated. Needless to say, they kicked us out, and Jasmine even threw some $10 bills at us and said, take it. Go back to your broken-down house. You're stinking up our air. I couldn't stop crying. It was exactly how they treated that girl on my first day at school. I didn't have much choice but to tell my parents the truth. That I'd lied to everyone, stolen the bag, and even stolen their money just so I could pretend to be rich. I'd never been so ashamed in all my life, especially after everything my parents had done for me. It took some time, but they eventually forgave me, and we moved to a small town out in the countryside so I could start at a new school. I never wanted to see those rich kids again. Now, I'm working hard to finish school and save enough money for college, and I've realized that being rich didn't even make me happy. My family might be poor, but they're the nicest people I've ever met. And you can't buy that in any designer shop.
When I was just a little girl, someone ruined my life. And to this day, I've never forgotten it. Never in a million years did I think I'd bump into them as an adult and have the opportunity to get revenge. But that's exactly what I did. Before I dive into my story, allow me to introduce myself a bit. I'm Ellie, and I'm 25 years old. I live in San Fran, and even though I've had a pretty tough life, I'm pretty happy now, and I have the greatest job. I'm a project manager at a cool startup in Silicon Valley. I work hard, not just because I enjoy my job, but because I like being an independent kind of girl. A lot of my friends ask me why I don't just find a rich guy to take care of me, and that just drives me crazy. I mean, I chose to be single because I really don't trust guys. You see, my dad is a nasty piece of work, and so he left a pretty bad taste in my mouth when it came to how I felt about men. When I was just 5 years old, he abandoned me and my mom in LA to go live with his mistress. Even talking about it now, I feel angry. We were devastated and begged him to stay, but he left us. After that, things were horrible for me and my mom. My dad was the breadwinner and the CEO of a company, so we'd never had to worry about a thing. After he left, my mom struggled to find a job, and sometimes we even went to bed hungry. I remember people felt sorry for us, and one of our neighbors started leaving food parcels on our doorstep. It was very sweet of them, but humiliating too. I hated my dad for leaving us in that mess, and I hated his mistress even more for stealing him away. I vowed to never date anyone because I never wanted to end up in my mom's position. All I knew was that men hurt women, and that wasn't going to be my story. So anytime guys asked me out, I turned them down. That was until something crazy happened that changed my mind on this whole guy thing. I was feeling really ill one day, and because I lived alone, I had to go out to the grocery store to get some food. When I got back, I felt like I was about to pass out. Before I even made it inside the door, I fainted on my porch. Luckily for me, one of my neighbors saw me fainting and rushed over to help me. I'd only ever seen him a few times in passing, but when I opened my eyes, he was standing over me. I felt so grateful. He told me his name was Brian, and I couldn't believe how kind he was being. He looked after me until I'd fully recovered. He made me soup and even sat by my bed and wiped my face with cold cloth to help get rid of my fever. The more time he spent by my side, the more I started to think maybe I'd been wrong. Maybe not all men were bad news like my dad. Maybe Brian was one of the good ones. I'm not proud of this, but I might have pretended to still be sick, just so he would keep coming to see me. Even after a week, he laughed and said to me, "Ellie, your fever is totally gone. Are you just using me now?" I could feel my face go bright red and jokingly said, "Look at me, I definitely still got fever." I really didn't want Brian to stop visiting. Other than my mom, no one had ever been so loving towards me. There was no hiding fact that I had feelings for him. We started hanging out more. Some days I worked super late, and whenever I came home, he'd invite me over for dinner. And one night, he'd set up candles and romantic music, and guys, that's when we kissed for the first time. It felt so good, and I knew there was no point fooling myself. I loved him, and he loved me too. For the next few months, we were inseparable. We spent every possible moment together, and after 6 months of dating, he asked me to meet him for lunch one day down by the waterfront. When I arrived, I couldn't believe it. He arranged for us to go out on a boat for a picnic. Then we were out in the water. Looking back at the city, he turned to me and said, "Ellie, I've never met anyone like you before. I want to spend the rest of my life looking after you, my Ellie bear. Will you marry me?" Oh my God, I'm not joking. I started crying so much, I thought we were going to capsize. This was the most romantic proposal ever. Of course I said yes. I couldn't wait to spend my life with Brian, and I was already so excited to start planning our wedding. I'd always dreamt of getting married in a vineyard near Sacramento. So now all we had to do was choose a venue and of course tell our parents. Brian had met my mom and they got on so well, but I still hadn't met his parents. They were divorced and Brian only really saw his dad. His mom was always working, he said, and so they didn't hang out much. I told him it was important to me that I met them both. So he arranged it. I was pretty nervous, but Brian's dad was so lovely, just like him. I could see where he got his kindness from. Then it was time to meet his mom. We went to a restaurant that she chose, and when we walked in, I thought I was going to collapse. This couldn't be happening, I thought. Brian's mom was none other than Sasha, my dad's mistress from all those years ago. I felt sick, and Brian could sense something was wrong. I tried to act as normal as possible, but inside, I wanted to scream. Brian introduced us and told me his mom was the CEO of my company's rival company. Could this get any worse? I had to smile and pretend to be happy to meet her. Honestly, I felt like I was going to puke and was counting the minutes until I could run out of there. Finally, his mom said she had to get back to work, and I felt like I could breathe again. But I had questions. On the way home, I asked Brian about his mom's life, and he said she divorced his dad 20 years ago when he was just 7 years old. She'd moved in with another guy, which I knew was my dad, but they'd broken up a long time ago, he said, and she had been constantly changing boyfriends till now. I turned to Brian and I said, "Are you okay with that? If she was my mom, I wouldn't want her to be playing around like that." But Brian just said, "I don't care. All that matters is that she's a good mom. As for her private life, she can do whatever she likes, right?" I couldn't believe it. How could Brian be such a good son? His mom had abandoned him, and he was just fine with it. I would never forgive my dad and his mistress for destroying me and my mom's life. And now I decided it was time for revenge. She'd made my childhood a living hell. Now it was her turn to know what it felt like. With planning the wedding, we started to see his mom, Sasha, more often, and I used these opportunities to try and get closer to her. Then one day I started complaining about my job, even though I loved it. And Sasha said, "Why don't you come work for me? There's a vacancy going, and you'd be perfect for it. I mean, you have so much experience." This was exactly what I wanted. Now I could ruin her company and then watch her life crumble. Everyone was surprised I was quitting my job to work for a rival company, but I didn't even have time to care about what they thought. On the first day at my new job, Sasha introduced me to everyone in the software design department, and that's when I met Clark, the head of the department. He was a little older than me, around 30, and he was well known in Silicon Valley for being super smart. The department was about to launch a new app that would blow people's minds, and everyone was super excited about it. Throughout my first day there, I couldn't help but notice how much attention Sasha was paying to Clark. It was kind of sickening to watch. She constantly flirted with him, and all I could think was how he was way too young for her. At lunch, she acted like a schoolgirl, saying, "Clarky, I saved a seat for you." I couldn't understand why Clark would like her. She continued to flirt with him over the next few weeks. She always brought him a coffee, and she didn't do that for anyone else. Then in meetings, she always chose his ideas. It was pretty frustrating, and I even thought about telling Brian that it looked like his mom had found a new boy toy. But then one day, I was working late, and when I walked past the meeting room to go to the restroom, I heard Sasha and Clark chatting, and I couldn't stop myself from eavesdropping. Sasha was giggling and said, "Oh, come on, Clark. I'll even give you a pay rise again. It's just one date." And Clark said, "Sorry, I really can't. I'm too busy, and to be honest, I did have that kind of feeling for you. I'm so sorry." Ha! It made me so pleased to hear Clark rejecting her. She didn't deserve a nice guy like Clark. As I walked back to my desk, I glanced into the meeting room, and I saw how upset she looked. Wow, she looked really hurt. She must have liked Clark a lot. And so, that's when my plan started to unfold. I would do to her what she'd done to my mom. I would steal the guy she loved right from under her nose.
No one told me it's this windy up here. I'll probably be wiped off of Earth before I could wipe all these windows. It's okay, Harper. Remember, you're doing this for Aaron. Just a bit of tough work for now, but imagine the incredible time you'll be having at the concert. Imagine, oh my god, Aaron and her? Hold up, let's start from the top. Hi, I'm Harper, the biggest fan of the greatest boy band, The Statics, especially their rapper Aaron. I turned 18 not long ago and I'm taking a gap year to find my true passion. To be honest, I'm not really interested in anything. The only thing that makes me feel alive right now is fangirling, following my boys around, concerts, touring, etc. But after months of that, I'm totally broke. Not to mention, Aaron's having his solo debut album. So, having no choice, I asked my super sweet boyfriend Kirk to lend me some money. But, again, all you ever did was spend relentlessly on this trash. You don't study, nor get a job. How are you expecting to afford it all? Do these idols feed you or give you a roof over your head? I don't think so. I can't help you forever either. Trash? He called my passion trash? Excuse me, I asked for a loan. Not like I was robbing him. He wasn't like this the other times. Finally showing his true self, huh? Fine, I don't need an unsupportive boyfriend. Anyone that stands between me and my happiness can get lost. So, we're over. Whatever. But wait, I still need to come inside as Kyra's bestie, not as your girlfriend. You might be wondering what kind of relationships I have going on here. Well, I actually befriended Kyra first. We were both ecstatic. Fandom of the Statics. If you know, you know. Fangirls bond is stronger than any friendship. Her mom works for a big press, so she sometimes could even get us access to shows. Cool, right? So I was always around her place. One thing led to another. Me and her brother fell in stupid love, but not anymore. Have you heard about Aaron's new album? Apparently it will be followed by a group concert right downtown New York. We can ask Kirk to give us a ride. It will be super fun. Oh, don't want to burst your bubble, but I just broke up with Kirk 4 minutes, 36 seconds ago. No way! Yes way! I told her how ridiculous her brother was, but she's still trying to find excuses for him, hoping to mend us back together. But sorry, this heart of mine has casted the dice. It's entirely dedicated to Aaron now. No more dumb boyfriend. And that's how I ended up taking on this dangerous job. Its high salary could get me boxes of albums and a concert ticket even. But what am I getting instead? My beloved idol, arms in arms with a singer I hate the most on earth, Bianca. Aaron and Bianca rushed to the window and dragged me inside. Please don't let anyone know this. What do you want? Autograph? VIP ticket? Please, you probably know our two fandoms are like water and oil. They already opposed us so badly over a collab last time. Yeah, of course I know, because I was the one who opposed. Seriously, what does Aaron see in this girl? She always says controversial stuff, gets caught in dating rumors with all guys on earth, parties 24/7, and her songs suck. But on a second thought, it's not every day to have the two hottest celebrities on their knees before me like this. Maybe I should act wisely. Either way, this is the lifetime opportunity for me stepping into Aaron's life, isn't it? Okay, I'll keep a secret on one condition. Let me be the manager of Bianca.
Bianca's manager? Who's looking for me? Wait, who are you?
But he didn't even bother to wait for my answer and started stacking out bunches of stuff for Bianca to sign.
Being a manager ain't a joke. See, Will's been doing this for years and still struggling.
Well then, more reason for me to step in. So I walked over to give him a hand. This poster is mid. Next time, let me handle it. Trust me, I've designed countless stuff for fan events. The title track this time is a bop, but without a good promotion, it turned into a flop. I suggest you make some TikTok challenge for it. I'm a girl Bianca's age. I for sure understand her and the fans more than you. I'll be useful. Right, guys? Yeah, sure.
She has a point, Will. You do need an assistant.
Right then, Will had a phone call. Seemed urgent. After hanging up, he turned to me.
Fine. It's true that I'm overloaded. I have to check stuff at the venue right now, but Bianca has schedules at the radio station in an hour. Can you get her there?
Sir, yes, sir. Just like that, I helped Will around, and it's safe to say I was basically Bianca's sub-manager. Life was pretty sweet. I got to tag along to shows for free, while keeping an eye on my love rival. I sure enjoyed playing God with my new puppet. Everything Bianca eats has to get my approval. Bye-bye, yummy tacos and burgers. She's only allowed to use the phone at certain times of the day. Stop texting boys and start working on your terrible music, honey. Then tell those annoying boys to stop bothering me. Even her sleep is strictly fixed, just because I love seeing her suffer. And I make sure her schedule is packed. Vocal training, dance practice, filming content. Girl, you have a lot to work on. But on days where she worked with the Statics, I'd let her off a little. Still, that doesn't mean these two could flirt under my nose. Seriously, it's like you guys are begging to get caught. Think about your future. This dumb fling won't matter a bit the day your career's on the edge of failing, won't it? I'd make a good manager, right? But I occasionally saw Liam, another member of Statics, being way too chatty with Bianca. Well, as long as it's not my Aaron. But I know someone who wouldn't like this. Kyra, as Liam's her bias. I guess the rumors are true. Liam is a playboy. And to prevent Aaron from getting caught in the same thing, I accidentally arranged Bianca's schedule to be 100% off with Aaron's, so they couldn't meet up. But Bianca still asked me to bring him gifts often, and surprisingly, Aaron wasn't too upset about his girlfriend not showing up. I guess I can get him in another level that Bianca couldn't. We soon talk a lot and hang out also, and he literally blurted out about how Bianca was so uptight, how some of her annoying habits gave him the ick, and that being with me was so much more comfortable. Uh-oh, sounds like love's fading. On the other hand, Bianca was extra upset that they still couldn't date on their anniversary. Not on me, though. Aaron himself didn't want to see her and made excuses about how paparazzi had been up in his grill because he's been doing so well lately. But Bianca has had enough with this all. She wanted to go public. I heard her talking to Aaron on the phone about it. No, that's not gonna happen. I have to be a step ahead. I immediately searched for a photo, then posted it anonymously on a fan forum. If Aaron goes public with anyone, it's gotta be me. But oh boy, maybe I've not thought this through. What was I even thinking? The next day, the internet went crazy, and it's all negative comments. Thankfully, Aaron's side has spoken up and calmed it down by fabricating a story about how this was from a long time ago, and it was his first love, blah blah. Anything, as long as things go down. I haven't even finished my sigh of relief, then out of nowhere, Aaron's stomping into our studio looking furious. R.I.P. me. Bianca, have you lost your mind? I told you I did not agree. Why did you post our photo? Are you trying to sabotage me? Sorry that you don't have a career so you can act careless all you want. But I do. I have my reputation and an army of stupid fangirls to please. I was frozen, as well as Bianca. Right then, a call came from Kyra. I swiftly sneaked out to take it. It's you, right? The lucky girl in the photo? I can tell by just one look. Last time we talked, you only mentioned seeing Bianca in real life or something. When did Aaron come into the picture? How could you not tell me? I was dumbfounded. Didn't know how to handle this. I mumbled out a few words so Kyra would keep this a secret and that we'd talk later. Okay, gotcha. But then help me meet my Liam, please. What? No, trust me, he's a player. They all are. Get over him. So Kyra recognized me that easily, but why Aaron didn't? He even mistook me with his so-called girlfriend, Bianca. That picture was also taken at the secret balcony of his penthouse that he swore he'd never taken anyone there before. Having too much on my mind, I wandered to his place, but ran into Liam? He's talking to a girl. She wiped her tears, then left. I should get going. Don't want to mess with another player right now. Harper! What? Don't worry, I won't tell anyone about that 400th girlfriend of yours. Correct, it's the 400th girlfriend, but not of mine. Turns out that girl's also a victim of Aaron the Heartbreaker, not Liam. Liam has always been the one who's cleaning after his mess, making sure the girls are all right and won't do anything harmful to the band's reputation. Probably that's why public labeled me as the player. I always got caught up with these heartbroken girls. And now you... What do you mean? I'm okay. Come on, I know you also got tangled in Aaron's love web. I'm sorry, I could have warned you earlier. I've been trying to hint it to Bianca, but the girl was too head over heels for him. I felt so stupid for thinking I could live that fantasy of being Aaron's girl so easily. All this time, we all blindly put Aaron on a pedestal, while letting Liam be wrongly accused of all the things he never did. Through Liam, I found out that the Statics has been having a problem. Aaron wanted to leave the group because he thought they're a burden and he'd do better on his own. But the rest knew that it would break the fans' heart if one of them left. So they've compromised by letting Aaron have a solo album while still staying with a group. Oh no, kick that jerk out now. As a representative of Ecstatic, I can assure you that we won't be sad if we know what an awful person he is. We'll show him the door. Glad to hear that. Now, about Bianca, do you know how to break this to her in the best way? It's hard, but ugly truth is the only way. So the next day, we went to see Bianca together, told her all about how much of a jerk Aaron is, all the girls he's been seeing, all the bad-mouthing about her, he said. Surprisingly, she took it better than we thought. Thank you, too, for looking out for me. I know he's bad, but I thought I'd been able to change him. But yesterday when he came throwing a fit at me, I realized that I deserved better. Oh, poor Bianca. I really owe her a zillion apologies. I asked Liam to give us a minute and came clean to her on everything. On the photo I posted, on how I intentionally got in between the relationship, on my dumb rules just to get the better of her. I'm truly sorry. I'm just a Delulu fangirl after all. I'm really sad to hear that because at some point I did consider you a friend, especially your ridiculous rules. It helped me a lot. that. Look, you kept me on a strict diet, helped me get a healthy sleep schedule, made me practice more, stay off my phone, no more doom scrolling and obsessing over hateful comments. I can assure that you've helped me become a better artist and human overall, even though it's by accident. You are seriously too nice. How come I spent all these years hating on you? I'm sorry, and I don't think I should be around here anymore. I'd better go back to my normal life. Take care, Bianca. Bianca gave me a tight hug and said that she hoped I'd still come to her concert next week, as she'd perform the dance number we created together. Liam was nice enough to accompany me to Bianca's concert. I did ask Kyra if she wanted to come along, but she was all cranky. Bianca's concert? Are you an ecstatic anymore, Harper? She's our enemy. Kiddo, if only she could see past the hate. She could have met her Liam now. The show was going on smoothly. Bianca perfected our dance routine. I was so proud. But as she went to get ready for the next song, a strange VCR got played. I'm a selfish fanatic, a friend's betrayal, a gold digger, a delulu, and on screen were pictures of me. No! Is this why Bianca insisted I come? Is this her paying back? Or is this Aaron's? Or Liam's? Suddenly, Bianca on the mic snapped me out of the panic attack. And I'm all the worst things without your love. Ladies and gentlemen, your favorite track from my second album, here's Without You. Everyone cheered loudly, but a voice behind me took me aback. No, guys! That's not what the video's about! The lunatic is here! This one! Oh my god! Liam quickly shushed her and we dragged her outside. Turned out my dearest sister from another mother did this to me. Why? I hate you. I know everything now. Don't forget who I am. Nothing in this fandom could be hidden from me. You got to befriend the boys but ghosted me because you want them all to yourself, huh? After everything we've been through, all the shows my mom helped you get in, you bewitched Aaron, sided with Bianca, then called my Liam a player. But look who you're with now. On top of that, you dumped my brother for a stupid reason. The player here is you. This is a mess, and it's really my fault. I should have filled Kyra in on everything sooner. Seeing her right now reminds me of the exact same person I was just last week. The same hot-headed, immature fan. I couldn't blame her. I apologized and told her everything. And with her dearest Liam's help, Kyra, though still mad, started to be more understanding. I love you, and I hope you will soon see things the way I do now. Idols are also humans. They're not all glitters and gold, so we can't expect them to be all perfect, then refuse to see their wrongdoings, or nitpicking trivial things just because it's not up to our expectations. Let's both be a better ecstatic from now, okay? It's been 6 months since then. I can say that things are definitely for the better now. It's the first performance of the Static since they parted ways with Aaron after his real face got exposed. Yes, that happened. Now, look, it seems like the crowd has no problem with dumping that troublemaker either. And me? Normally I'd be here as an ecstatic, but not today. I'm now working part-time while studying to get proper certification on talent management. I realized that I did enjoy working with Bianca, and I actually had a knack for it, so I'm going to make a career out of it. Now, excuse me guys, may I get my manager back? It's showtime. Bye!
I'm Meg, and I'm just your standard 21-year-old college girl. Well, at least I thought I was. My story begins normally enough. I had this huge crush on a guy who was in his senior year. He's called Ian, and he's funny, sweet, and extremely attractive. I've noticed him since my first year here, but it's only recently that I think he's started to notice me, too. College life meant that our paths crossed in the campus, coffee house, the corridors, the library, and at house parties, so he did know my name at least. So it's not the kind of pathetic crush when they don't even know that you exist. Now, whenever he sees me in these places, we smile and say hey to each other, and his eyes always linger on me that split second longer. I really figured that his lingering looks meant he had a crush on me too, and I had a chance with him. I'd been in the cheer team back in high school, but initially, I was unsure about joining the team at college, as my workload's so intense. But Ian's a massive sports fanatic, and he's on the football team, so I joined the cheerleading team to have an excuse to be close to him, as the cheer practice had the same schedule as the football team. My plan worked, and we started talking more. So, okay, it was only small talk. Stuff like, hey, how was practice? And it's the perfect weather for practice, isn't it? Well, they might not have won Conversation of the Year, but it was a start. Besides, sweaty end of practice chats didn't put me at my flirting prime, as it's hard to maintain cuteness when my hair was stuck to my forehead. Talking to him gave me a buzz and meant that I couldn't sleep that night. To celebrate their awesome season ranking, the football team planned a party. Of course, they'd invited the cheerleaders, but as a newbie, I was nervous about going along, as I didn't know anyone all that well. After the practice, I was walking home when a familiar voice shouted, "Wait up," behind me. I spun around to see that it was Ian. As delighted as I was, I couldn't shake off the feeling that I was being watched. I looked over to the right a bit and saw a woman in a black luxury car was staring at me. But as soon as I spotted her, she closed the car window and looked away. That was a bit strange, but I couldn't care less about it, as my crush was standing right in front of me. "You're coming to the party, right? Bring your friends over too. The more the merrier." Ian smiled at me. I stood there in a daze, but I managed to nod and said, "Yeah, sure." He quickly walked away, but didn't forget to turn back to tell me, "See you tonight." I got jelly legs and had to lean on the closest wall to me to balance myself. Was this real? I pinched myself, and it was totally real. Ian technically just asked me out, right? Then I noticed something. Ian got into the passenger side of the black car with a strange staring woman. This was odd. I mean, who was she? Maybe she was his aunt or something, and she'd only been staring weirdly at me as he'd told her all about me? Excitement overruled my uneasy feeling. I rushed home so I could plan out my outfit. On my way back, I called up my best friend Liv. Ian told me to bring a friend, and who else would I bring? Liv is my best friend. We're inseparable. She often sits out in the field waiting for me to finish my cheerleading practice, and smiles over at me when she sees Ian chatting to me. I told Liv to come pick me up. I didn't want to drive because I think I'll be leaving with Ian later anyway, and if that's the case, Liv could drive home herself. We got to the house party. Everyone was having fun. Liv quickly blended in on the dance floor. I tried to enjoy it too, but couldn't help but look around, searching for Ian, the only reason why I was there. As I was lurking, I also met eyes with a very cute guy. He kept on looking at me. As cute as he was, my sights were firming set on Ian. After what seemed like 10 laps of the cramped house, I finally found Ian. He's walking in with a red Solo cup in hand, casually fist-bumping everyone. It's like there's a halo around him. He's so hot. He walked towards me and was really friendly. Then Liv appeared by my side and gave me a hug. Ian asked Liv lots of questions, which I thought was sweet. He was making an effort with my friend, which made him so thoughtful and polite. Now that I knew Ian was around, I could finally relax and enjoy the party a bit. Then I went to the backyard to get some beer for me and Liv. I came back inside carrying the beers. Liv had moved, so I went in search of her. That's when I found her kissing someone by the staircase. Firstly, I felt excited for her. My bestie was kissing a cute boy. But then I realized that the boy she was kissing had the same light-washed denim jeans on as Ian, and the same perfectly styled hair. Wait a minute. It was Ian! My best friend in the whole world was kissing the boy I liked. I was so upset I dropped the beers, then ran outside in tears. I sat on the curb feeling devastated. How could Liv do this to me? I looked up through teary eyes and noticed that further up the road, there was a luxury black vehicle parked up. That was weird. Was it the same vehicle as before? I went to the football team party certain that I was finally going to hook up with my crush Ian. Only I found Ian kissing my best friend Liv. Now I was sitting outside on the curb feeling dreadful. Geez, this night sucked. I stared at the black vehicle. Why was it following me? Maybe I should go and check it out. Suddenly, a hand tapped my shoulder. Startled, I turned around and saw that it was Ian. "Thank you so much, Meg, for setting me up with Liv. Don't worry, I'll definitely pay you back. How about lunch on Sunday? My treat." He winked, then walked off. I sat there, open-mouthed. Was he serious? He hadn't even noticed that I was crying. What a jerk. I felt like I was about to blow. My sobbing increased. I felt so rejected. So, does that mean he didn't like me, but he liked Liv? Had he ever liked me? What was wrong with me? Worse still, Liv knows I have a massive crush on him, but she still kissed him? I felt so betrayed. I'd lost both my crush and best friend in the same night. This party was terrible. Suddenly, I remembered the black vehicle, so I looked over to where it was, only it wasn't there anymore. I shrugged. I had bigger things to deal with right now than some weirdo in a posh car. The tears wouldn't stop. I was basically a waterfall. I wiped them onto the back of my arm, but this didn't help much. Someone sat down next to me. A guy. "Hey, what's wrong?" he asked. Through blurry eyes, I realized that it was the cute guy who'd been eyeing me up earlier at the party. I was too upset to reply to him, so I just sat there crying and shivering, which wasn't a good look. He took his jacket off and placed it around my shoulders. "I can't have you freezing to death on my conscience." He smiled. His smile was infectious, and even through my tears, I found myself smiling too. "Whatever it is, you shouldn't let it ruin your night. You're here now, so you should have a good time." This guy was right. Liv and Ian were certainly having a great time, so why should I be the one sat here miserable? I didn't need Ian or Liv, so they were both welcome to each other. I was at this lame party now, and I didn't have my car with me, so I was stuck here. I may as well make the most of it. "Let's get a drink," I blubbered out. I wiped my tears, and the guy helped me up, and we went inside. Jackpot for me, he's very cute. His name's Nick, and he's friends with one of the guys on the football team. I spent the rest of the party with Nick. We danced around and played party games. Turns out I sucked at beer pong, so I ended up quite tipsy from all the beer I had to down. I felt tired and wanted to go home, but how on earth could I sit in the same car as that traitor Liv? Talk about the most awkward car journey home ever. I couldn't put myself through it. Then Nick offered me a ride home. I acted shy, but agreed. I mean, who could say no to him? Besides, he'd cheered me up tonight. I told him the address and dozed off a bit in the back seat, then woke up just in time to tell him to turn left at the next intersection. Then it'd be my house. But to my horror, he sped up and drove past it. Confused, I told him that we needed to make a U-turn, but he just ignored me and smirked. I panicked. Then I yelled at him, "What are you doing?" Suddenly, he answered the phone. I heard a female voice on the other end. I stayed quiet to listen, but couldn't tell what she was saying. He replied, "Yes, I've got her here. We're on the way." Was I really being kidnapped? I needed to find a way to get out. I thought about calling my sister to help pick me up, and I'd jump out of the car at a red stop. I called her and whispered to her the situation and to come find me at the gas station we're about to pass by. I didn't hang up just yet. I told Nick, "I've already told my sister. If you don't release me now, she'll call the police." He looked taken aback. My plan did work a little, but not enough to make him stop the car. I had to switch to plan B, jumping out of the car. From now till we get to the gas station, there would be 3 red stops, and I'd have to brace myself to jump, or else we'd get to the highway and there would be no turning back. First, it was a green light. Second one, I had my hands on the car door handle, but was too scared to open it. Third one, I had to do this now or never. As we approached the lights, I closed my eyes and was about to do it. Then he suddenly turned left. I panicked. He stopped the car and told me to get out. Confused, I froze. Then his phone rang again. I saw the pic of the caller. It's a woman. Seems a little familiar. As the phone rang, he yelled at me to get out again. I quickly opened the door and fell to the ground. He drove away immediately. I sobbed out to my sister on the phone, and through my fear, I tried explaining what had just happened. With my shaking hands, I managed to share my location with her. Then I walked to try and find some place with bright lights to wait for her. I was in total panic mode until I got home. As I calmed down a bit, I started to put things together and wondered why he did this to me. And then it came to my mind that the caller was the woman in the black luxury car I saw that afternoon. Then this means it all had something to do with Ian. Is it because she thought I was Ian's girlfriend or something? But when she found out I wasn't, she ordered my release? If Ian has something to do with this, then that means Liv could now be in danger. Should I warn her? Or is it now that traitor's problem, not mine? I'm mad with her, but I don't want anything bad to happen to her. I don't know what this is all about. What should I do now?
I always told myself I would never get married. To me, marriage seemed like the worst thing in the world, and who could blame me? My dad had cheated on my mom constantly, and I felt like it was all my fault. I once heard him say when I was a kid that he only stayed with my mom because he'd accidentally got her pregnant. So basically, he resented me, and that was what my childhood was like. My dad made it torture. I decided I never wanted to grow up to be like him, and then I would stay single forever. But then everything changed the day I met a girl named Carrie. I'm Nico, by the way. And before I get into the chaos of what happened after I met Carrie, let me just say that she was the most beautiful, smart, amazing girl I'd ever met. And I was definitely not the only guy who felt that way. However, never in a million years did I think she would hurt me in a way that was almost even worse than how my dad hurt my mom. You see, my dad cheated on my mom the whole time when I was growing up. They always argued, since my mom had suspicions of his cheating, but nothing was ever proven. Then finally, my mom caught him with his coworker, so they divorced when I was only 9 years old. It put a lot of strain on my life because I had to split my time between the two of them. And my dad was always out on dates with different women, so I pretty much raised myself when I was at his place. This really affected my relationship with him, and we never got close because I was always too busy. As for my mom, she took years to get over what my dad had done. And so it just made sense to me not focus on girls. Instead, I spent all my time drawing. While all the other guys went out on dates, I was making comic books. Relationships just seemed too messy. At one point, my friend teased me and asked me if I was gay. But I just told them that my dad had ruined my mom's life. I didn't want the same thing to happen to me. Instead, I focused on college and getting my art degree. So when I met Carrie, you can imagine how life-changing it was for me. I never expected to meet someone because I wasn't even looking for it. But it was love at first sight, and I couldn't stop myself. Little did I know how much that relationship would mess up my entire life, though, and in more ways than one. We met at a comic meet-and-greet event. I work as a comic book artist, and when I saw her walking towards my stand at the event, I got so nervous. I'm a little nerdy, so seeing a gorgeous girl walking towards me was crazy, but we hit off immediately. Turned out she was a big fan of my work and loved that I was slightly nerdy. So that first evening, I went against my word that I'd never date and asked her out. She was so supportive of my comic books, and it was so encouraging for me. She didn't care that I wasn't super rich or famous. She just liked me for who I was. So within a month, I was in love with her. No one had ever supported me like that before. My dad had basically been absent my whole life, and my mom was still so depressed about stuff with my dad. Carrie was the first person to push me to really chase this dream. After 4 months, I decided to propose to her. For the first time, I understood why people got in relationships. I'd never been so happy. If only it could have lasted. Our wedding day was interesting, let's just put it that way. Of course, Carrie looked so beautiful in her dress, and I must admit I scrubbed up pretty well too. But there was one thing I wished I could have changed about that day. For some reason, my dad was in the worst mood. Ever since I'd met Carrie, he'd been acting even colder toward me. And I figured he was just jealous because all his relationships had been complete failures. Honestly, of all the days for him to act like this, my wedding day, it made me so angry. My whole life I'd put up with feeling like a burden to him. And now on my big day, he couldn't even crack a smile. I even overheard him saying something about how I didn't deserve a girl like Carrie. It made me sick that he couldn't just be happy for me. I asked Carrie to try and talk to him and get him to calm down a bit, so she did. She was so sweet and could comfort anyone. And my dad seemed to like her more than he liked me. I left to her and made the rounds chat with the other guests. But then when it came time to sit down for dinner, I couldn't find her. It was kind of awkward because everyone was waiting. And then just when I really started to panic, she appeared with my dad. They'd obviously been talking for a while. But at least my dad looked more relaxed and even smiled at me at one point, so I figured she'd done something right. At least I could enjoy the night and not worry that my dad would ruin it by saying something stupid. So the rest of the wedding night went well, and then we went on our honeymoon. It was fun, but Carrie seemed a little off. She spent a lot of time on her phone, and I'd hoped we'd spend more quality time together. I mean, it was our honeymoon, after all. There were a few times where she even pulled away when I tried to kiss her, and I started to feel insecure. Had we moved too fast? I was seriously feeling anxious. Anyway, we still had a nice holiday, and I tried not to overthink it. We got back from our honeymoon, and my dad came to visit a few days later. This was weird because he never visited me. In fact, he did his complete best to avoid me. But now that I was with Carrie, maybe he wanted to make up for lost time and make a good impression. Maybe Carrie would help my dad and I finally get close. But one day after he'd left, I found a bag with some revealing lingerie and I called him and asked him if he'd forgotten something, and then he just laughed and said, "Oh, it's for Carrie, and for you. You got to keep that spark going, right, son?" I was shocked. What a weird gift by your daughter-in-law. It made me kind of uncomfortable. Dad clearly had no idea that this was inappropriate, though. It was so embarrassing. Anyway, Valentine's Day was coming up, and I decided to surprise Carrie. Recently, she'd been quite distant, and I figured I needed to do something super romantic to get her to notice me again. I decided to leave work early and surprise her with a rose petal bath. I even bought some nice candles, And I was thinking I'd cook a delicious meal, too. But when I got home, my dad's car was in the driveway. That's weird, I thought. I wasn't expecting him. And when I went inside, I couldn't see him anywhere. Dad? I called. But there was no reply. I went upstairs, and that's when I noticed our bedroom door was closed. I opened it, and my worst nightmare came true. My dad was in bed with my wife. And no, they weren't just hanging out talking. They were full on French kissing. I thought I was going to collapse. My whole body started shaking, and Carrie suddenly jumped up. "Nico!" she screamed, covering her chest with the sheet. "What are you doing home so early?" I couldn't hold back the tears. I seriously couldn't believe that Carrie would do something like this to me, and with my dad. To make it worse, my dad started laughing. I felt like I was going to explode, so I went right over to him and punched him in the face and asked him to get out of my house. Carrie jumped in between us to stop me from hurting him, and this just made me even more upset. Why was she protecting him? Eventually, he managed to escape and left the house. Then I asked Carrie to pack up all her stuff and get the heck out too. I never wanted to see either of them again, and I screamed at Carrie as she left, saying I'd be filing for divorce right away. Honestly, I never thought Carrie would cheat on me. It hadn't even crossed my mind. I felt so betrayed. As she left with her suitcases, I felt completely crushed. I had no idea where she'd go to live now, but it's not hard to guess. My life was over. My own dad, who'd treated me terribly my whole life, had now gone and done the worst possible thing, stolen my wife from me. It took me a while to get to grips with it all. Even now, I'm still disturbed. And I think back to our wedding day, and I know that's when it all started. Carrie hadn't just cheered my dad up. She'd been seduced by him. No wonder they looked so weird that evening. The way my dad kept smiling, it all made sense now. It's been a year since the whole thing happened, and I haven't spoken to either of them since then, and I don't plan to. They both betrayed me, and they don't deserve a second of my time. I did check Carrie's social media once, and she's still with my dad. Posts all these photos of them together and calls him hubby, even though they aren't married. I talked to my uncle about it, and he said he saw my dad with another woman at the golf course one day, so I guess that's karma. Carrie cheated on me, and now she's getting cheated on. Well, that's her problem now. I think it's time for me to ignore them and to regain my faith to live a better life. God always offers what we deserve.
Hi, I'm Olive. At the young age of just 23, I've decided I'm totally done with love. Why, you ask? Well, because all men are jerks, liars, and fraudsters. They're like magpies. They're always looking for something new and shiny to come along. So, your boyfriend is different? Yeah, whatever. I've heard it all before. I've believed it all before too, trust me. But as much as it sucks to hear that all guys are the same, I'll tell you why. It all began back in high school when I had a massive crush on this boy called Xavier. He was so dreamy, handsome, and talented. We bonded over our love for music, and we were in the same school choir together. Every musician has a muse, right? I believed that I was Xavier's only muse, and no one could replace me. In my eyes, he could do nothing wrong. Being around him filled me with butterflies, and I couldn't wait to go to college with him and share my life with him. But then, I caught him in the music room, kissing some other girl. I felt so broken and ran off. I just didn't understand how a boy who I thought cared about me could hurt me so badly. I turned into a zombie version of myself. I could barely eat anything, and I refused to go to school as there's no way I could face seeing him with her. In the end, my mom was so concerned about me that she let me change schools. The problem was that it might have been a new school, but it was still full of jerky guys. I started dating this boy called Justin. Then he broke up with me for my friend Rosie. I had to endure sitting alone in the canteen and watching them feed each other yogurt. Gross. I thought that going to college would change my bad luck with guys and that they'd be more grown up about relationships. But no. Turns out my first college boyfriend, Thomas, was two-timing me the whole time. I was clearly a magnet for bad guys, so I decided to use it to my advantage. In fact, their bad behavior is so predictable that I've managed to build a career on it. So after I graduated from college with a degree in business administration, I convinced my family to lend money so I could open up my love trap business. Do you want to find out if your boyfriend's loyal or not? Well, my business can help with that. Hire me. I can tell you if you're wasting your time with that charming guy or if he's one in a zillion. This isn't an investigation service or your regular kind of honey trap company. No, Instead, I help my clients determine if their partner is faithful or not, even before he actually has an affair with someone. Why waste your time and effort with a man who has a wandering eye? It's simple, really. If your partner likes tall brunettes, I'll send a beautiful girl fitting his description over to the place he'll be at. Naturally, I have different service packages to choose from to suit all budgets. For instance, level 1 is a brief encounter in a chosen location, while level 3 ups the stakes. Trust me, few guys can resist a super sexy woman. If your boyfriend passed our challenges, congratulations. But if he didn't, then we'd have pictures, videos, and messages to back it up. Of course, my client's discretion was the utmost importance to me. So, if questioned, then my girls would deny being hired, and who by? And they never go beyond the limits or allow themselves to develop feelings for the guy. As crazy as it sounds, I was doing really well with this job. Business was booming, and although seeing my clients burst into tears when I handed them pictures of their guy flirting with one of my girls wasn't fun, exposing a cheater made me feel satisfied. Then everything changed when Amy showed up at my office. She seemed like any normal client at first. She loved her boyfriend, but she just wasn't fully sure if she could trust him. A normal, boring case. At least I thought it was, until I opened up the folder with the information about her boyfriend. There, staring back at me, was a picture of Xavier. Whoa, I wasn't expecting that. Still, I kept my cool, smiled sweetly at Amy, and said, "Leave it to me." As if I was going to turn down this job and a large sum of money just because I had history with Xavier. Amy didn't know that, and didn't need to. I'd send another girl along, catch him out, then voila, Amy would see what a jerk he was. Only that evening, I poured myself a glass of wine and looked through his folder. Geez, I'd forgotten just how handsome he was. By my third glass of wine, I decided that no one knew Xavier better than me. Therefore, I needed to use myself as bait and catch him out. The next evening, I put on my favorite dress and I went to the bar Amy said he'd be at. There he was, sitting at the bar and flirting with the pretty bartender. Some things never change. Then he turned and saw me. He looked shocked and said, "Olive, is that you?" "Oh, hi Xavier," I smiled bitterly. "Last time I saw you, weren't you having fun with your new muse in the music room?" He looked confused and said he didn't understand what I was talking about. So I gave him a refresher. I thought he'd be ashamed that I caught him out as a cheater, but then he responded, "No, you got the wrong idea. We were just practicing for the school play when she tried to kiss me all of a sudden. I bet you didn't stay until the next moment to see me push her away and tell her I already had my girlfriend. You're my one and only Olive, my muse." Suddenly, I felt so stupid that I didn't ask him directly that day, and just ran away without a word. If I had, then I could have had my dream life with him, and never had to experience those jerk guys. As I looked into his dreamy eyes, I realized that I still loved him, and I knew he loved me too. That Amy girl wasn't right for him. So when he asked me to go back to a hotel room with him, I didn't think twice about saying yes. After that, we started dating, and it felt good being able to trust a guy again. He was always spoiling me with romantic weekend trips and taking me out to expensive restaurants. But then one night, when I was with him at a hotel, and he was out of the room, his phone beeped, and I saw a message from Amy pop up. So when he returned, I used this as my chance to ask him, "Who's Amy?" He touched my hand and told me that she was just some silly girl he was pretending to date so her father's company would hire him for a big job. He promised that after his business contract ended, he wouldn't talk to her again. I'd failed to trust Xavier once before. I wasn't about to do it again. Also, I need to help him with his business. So when Amy came to my office, I put on a smile and said, "Congrats, Xavier's one of the good guys." "Is that right?" She raised an eyebrow. Then she threw a pile of photos on the table between us. There were pictures of me and Xavier at the bar, at the mall, on our recent short trip away, and in a hotel foyer. Talk about a shocker. It turns out Amy wasn't as naive as I thought she was. She scowled at me and said, "Does your place even have rules for going to hotels with a customer's boyfriend to challenge him? Prepare yourself to go to courts, fraudsters." She left, leaving me trembling with fear. I was about to lose my business, and it was all my own fault. But at least I still had Xavier, the love of my life, right? I called him up in tears and expected him to comfort me. Instead, he yelled out, "You ruined it all, you loser! How dare you let Amy know about your embarrassing affair? Do you really think I'd leave a good girl like Amy for someone awful like you? Prepare for the trial, since my testimony will put you at a disadvantage." Now, I have a ruined career and a dented pride. I'm tired and exhausted, and the last remaining belief in love I had has been lost forever. But worse still, I don't trust myself. I hate the fact that I fell for Xavier's charms, not once, but twice. But if I manage to get through this lawsuit without losing everything, then I want to start a new business. I don't want to be bitter forever. Instead, I want to do something with my life. Something that doesn't involve love, heartbreak, or anything in between, as I'm keeping my heart a no-go zone from now on.
Hey there, I'm Adeline. I know at 19 I may be young, but I understand how cruel the world can be. My family used to be super rich. As a result, I lived in a massive house, went to the best schools, and had some out-of-this-world vacations. What I didn't realize was my dad was carrying around a big secret. His company had gone bankrupt. Being the proud man he was, instead of telling Mom and me the truth, he let it beat him up. When I was 10, he committed suicide and left Mom and me with a whole load of grief and guilt to deal with, and a house we could no longer afford. That's why we moved out of our palace to come and stay with my grandma in a small town. I always just presumed that after finishing high school, I'd go to college. My ambition was to study finance. Now, this seemed even more necessary as it meant that in the future, I could rebuild Dad's empire and make him proud. I didn't have an allowance anymore, so I was reliant on my part-time job in a restaurant to get me by. I'm pretty smart. Therefore, in my first few terms of college, I managed to get scholarships, which were my main financial source. Unfortunately, this term there was only one full scholarship available. The problem is that, as smart as I am, there's this other guy called Ryan on my course who's even smarter. In previous examinations, even though I crammed day and night and drank a whole load of coffee to stay alert, I was always one step behind him. It's so annoying as I knew he was a rich kid, so he didn't even need the scholarship. He was also good looking, and loads of girls swooned after him. You name it, he aced it. From coursework to girls. Jeez, he was the most frustrating person ever. I guess all my whining about Ryan was sending my roommate Bella crazy, as she told me to shut up and that I needed to use my assets to outplay Ryan. Thinking about it, her idea made sense. Ryan was always going to be smarter than me, so if I couldn't beat him, then I'd just have to distract him so he'd fail the test. I know this seemed mean, but it's not like he needed the scholarship, right? Bella let me borrow some of her cute clothes, showed me how to style my hair and how to do my makeup. I suddenly turned from Cinderella into a princess. Now, all I needed to do was approach Ryan and put my scholarship success plan into action. After class, Bella and I deliberately followed Ryan. As I walked past him, Bella jumped out and nudged me, causing me to tumble into him and drop my books. He immediately rushed to pick them all up and passed them to me. As I thanked him, I pretended to accidentally grab his hand. Our eyes met, and he smiled at me. Talk about success. The next day after school, I rushed to work. Some days ago, because I was so engrossed in studying, I forgot the work schedule. So when I got to the restaurant, my boss scolded me and she said that she would reduce part of my wage this month. I looked up at her with apologetic eyes. Then I suddenly felt like someone else was staring at me. I glanced at the order counter and saw Ryan. Talk about humiliating. Being on reduced wages was a disaster. So I had no choice but to find another part-time job to do alongside it. I needed to find something that I could fit around all my studying. So I needed it to have flexible time and shorter shifts. Light bulb moment. I could teach the piano. I had been playing it since I was little, and I knew I was good at it. I designed a flyer called Friendly Piano Tutor at Home, and to my delight, I received a call the next day. I turned up at the address, and to my surprise, found myself in front of a mansion. Did I find the right address? Flustered, I pulled out my phone and called the number they'd contacted me on. I was completely surprised when the person who opened the gate was Ryan. I blurted out loud, "Ryan, is that you? You've hired me for piano lessons?" And stared at him. "Yeah," he smiled. "Look, I'm sorry for how your boss at the restaurant treated you. And, I have a piano here, so I guess now seems like the perfect time to learn." Since then, I taught Ryan piano. Turns out he was a natural. Typical. Was there anything this guy wasn't good at? Okay, so I found out that Ryan wasn't as much of a jerk as I thought he was. He was actually sweet and funny. We had a shared love of music concerts, and we both longed to own companies one day. One time, I took his hand to move his fingers over the keys when this weird feeling came over me. Was that sparks I felt? Then another time, when I praised him for acing his piece of music, he said, "It's down to my amazing and beautiful teacher." I blushed and quickly looked away from him. I guess he felt them too as both of us began to blush and the situation went super awkward. It's safe to say, the bond between us grew stronger, but I had to keep things professional as I had the scholarship to think about. So at the end of a piano lesson when he asked me out, I quickly refused. I told him I had to study. He asked why I had to study so much when I was already doing so well. Seizing the opportunity, I told him how if I didn't get the scholarship for the next term, then I'd have no choice but to quit college, as I couldn't afford it. Hearing that, Ryan told me not to worry about it, as he would deliberately make his work worse, so as long as I did my best, then the scholarship would be mine. I felt embarrassed and a bit awkward, but I hugged him and thanked him. But something happened the day before the exam that changed my mind. We had a piano lesson that day, so as I was walking toward the room where the lessons took place, I heard voices coming from his father's study. Then I heard a loud voice say, "It's about time you took a look at Vincent and strived more to be like him. I don't want to live with the embarrassment of having a disappointment for a son." It was clear from all the mistakes he made during the lesson that Ryan had something on his mind. Was it because of the conversation with his father? In the end, I timidly asked him, "Ryan, who is Vincent? I'm sorry, I only ask because I overheard your conversation between you and your dad, and I can see you're distracted." He told me that Vincent's his older half-brother, and the son his father had with his first wife. Vincent was extremely smart and was helping their father to manage a foreign branch. Ryan always felt insignificant in comparison to him, and knew how much his father wanted him to be as excellent as his half-brother was, so he could later help him manage the company. Ryan told me, however, since they were kids, he'd never got on with Vincent, so he didn't want to be inferior to his older brother. So even though he didn't need a scholarship, he always tried to be the best. That night, I thought a lot about everything, and realized that not only did I feel bad for Ryan, but I also had strong feelings for him. I confided in Bella and told her that I wanted to confess all to him. I wanted him to take the scholarship test with his real ability. He deserved the highest position and to make his father proud of him. Besides, did I really want to win by default? Doing that wouldn't have been honorable. When Bella and I were talking, our moody housemate Dee Dee shouted down to us, "Will you guys shut up and let me sleep?" The next morning, I went to school early and waited for Ryan at the college gates. Seeing him, I waved happily, but he ignored me and walked off. I shouted after him, "Ryan, you have to do your best today with all of your ability." That's when he stopped walking and turned to look at me with cold eyes and said, "Of course I will. Dee Dee messaged me last night and told me all about your attempted sabotage plot." Stunned, I lost the ability to talk and instead looked at him with pleading eyes as I stuttered out, So, I know you want to find out what happened next. Stay tuned as the next part of my story is coming soon.
Hey, it's Jessica. From the outside, my life seemed perfect. My family is wealthy, I'm beautiful, shining bright, and even my job is fancy. But from the inside, I do have a character flaw. It's my short temper that almost caused me to lose everything. I've always been Daddy's little princess, which means that anything I want, I have to get, such as new clothes, a new car, and exotic vacations. Because of this, other girls have always been jealous of me. But Kath was different. She realized there's so much more to me than my designer outfits and glossy hair. Kathy's family lived nearby. You see, my dad was friends with Kath's father, who passed away when she was little. But being the nice guy my dad is, he continued to support them. He paid for Kath's education, so we went to the same school. She was the only friend who could handle my short temper. I know, that wasn't nice, but it was hard dealing with the average girl's jealousy toward me. As a result, there were a few incidents. One time, when I was just a primary student, some girl dared to put on my shirt after sports. She said it was an accident, but as if. I yelled at her that she'd stretched it, and now she owed me a new one. Kath tried to defuse the situation, but she just got caught up in the middle of the shouting match. Literally, as me and this girl were screaming insults at each other across Kath. Then another time, some kids sat in my seat in the canteen, and when I asked them to move, they refused to. I was fuming, so I poured my custard all over them. Seeing as the kids were about to get crazy, Kath passed them a napkin, hurriedly apologized to them, then led me out of there before I covered them in more of my lunch. She understood how mad I got on things, but never got annoyed at me about it. This is why our friendship continued into adulthood. It was perfect to have a friend like Kath to grow up with. But what made my life even more perfect was the arrival of our boy next door. Yes! A new family had just moved in, and my mom told me that a cute boy my age was going around meeting people. I ran out to suss it out and find Kath standing on her front porch and talking to a super cute guy. I swished out my hair and tottered over to them. "Hi, Kath." I smiled at her. Then I turned to him and said, "Hi there. We definitely haven't met before, 'cause there's no way I'd forget you." He smiled back and introduced himself as Andrew and said he lived on that block. I sat down on the couch in Kath's house and did my research on Andrew and found out he was a pretty famous influencer. His dad ran off with another woman and started a new family, so Andrew lives with his mom and Nan. And best of all, he was single. I pulled on Kath's arm and insisted that she help me beg Andrew as my man. She looked a little awkward at first, but then she reluctantly agreed to help. I persuaded Kath to pretend that she lost her phone, then I went round to Andrew's and begged him to come and help us look for it. He spent the whole afternoon trying to help us look for it, only to hear it buzzing in my pocket. Oops. Then one time, well, this wasn't planned, but I managed to get one of my new heels stuck in a drain cover. I was standing there yelling at it when Andrew walked past and told me to take my shoe off. I refused. Did he have any idea how expensive they were? He just laughed and told me to lean on him while he carefully unwedged my shoe. Whose heart wouldn't melt for this gentle guy? After that, we started to talk more, and then chatted every day. He had a sense of humor and was very gentle toward me. It is so wonderful to know that he was impressed by how cute I was, hiding Kat's phone in my pocket to find a chance to make friends. How embarrassing, but seemed like he liked that. After 2 months, he asked me out on a date, and soon we became an official couple. I loved being around his family, as his mom and grandma were so sweet and friendly. Then my dad said he needed me to go on a 3-month business trip in San Diego. I didn't want to leave Andrew for so long, but there was nothing I could do about it. Ugh, being an adult sucked sometimes. I just had to pack up and take a flight to San Diego, then finish the job as quickly as possible. Little did I know how terrible things could happen in the next 3 months. One night, my mom called me up. She was furious, and at first, I couldn't work out what she was saying. Finally, she calmed down enough for me to make her words out. "Jess, I found the DNA test hidden away in one of your father's filing cabinets. Kath is his biological daughter. This whole time, he's been lying to us. I cannot put up with this. I'm divorcing him, and I won't be happy until he's left with nothing." What? Kath was my sister? No, it couldn't be. I called up Kath to get to the bottom of this. As soon as she picked up, I screamed at her. "Your dad's my dad. How could you keep this a secret? You're trash, and so's your mom. You're both vile, ugly gold diggers, and I hate you both." Kath spluttered out. What? Huh? I don't understand. You heard me. You're trash, and so's your mom. She's nothing more than a man-eating, money-obsessed liar, and I hate her. Sobbing, Kath replied, "Don't talk about my mom like that." This only made me angrier, so I yelled, "I will say what I want to. I hate you and I hate her. I hope you both fall down a pothole and never get out." Suddenly, I heard a voice say in the background, "Who are you talking to? And why are you so upset?" I knew that voice. It was Andrew's. Why was he with Kath? I was about to scream out at her to stay away from my man, but she hung up. I immediately tried calling Andrew, but he didn't answer. I was so angry I screamed out, then went into the kitchen and started smashing glasses onto the floor and swiping things out of the cupboards. The next day, Andrew called me. I thought he was going to try and worm his way out of what he did, so I answered with a, "Oh, hi Andrew. It's nice to finally hear from you." He replied, Hi Jess. Look, I have something important to tell you. It's my grandma. She's in the hospital, and I can't afford the medical bills. I hate asking, but please, could I borrow some money? Furious, I yelled, "Who do you think you are? You did the dirty behind my back, and now you have the cheek to ask for my help? It's none of my business, dude." He fell silent, then hung up. At first, I was fuming. How dare he do that to me? But once I had time to calm down, I thought maybe I had overreacted a tiny bit. I mean, I could have given him a chance to explain, so I tried calling him again, but he didn't answer. I called Kath, and in my calmest voice, I asked her to tell me what was going on. She said she had no idea that my dad was also her real dad, and it was a lot for her to process. Then she said that she was only around at Andrew's last night because his grandma had a fever, and she was trying to help, but then her fever worsened, so she was taken to the hospital. I felt pretty bad about it all, so I tried calling Andrew again to sort all this mess out, but he'd blocked my number. I transferred him some money over towards his grandma's expenses, but he sent it straight back to me. It was so hard being so far away from Andrew and not being able to go and talk things through with him. I missed him like crazy. Because of this, I confided in Kath loads, and she kept me in the loop about how Andrew's grandma was. Apparently, she wasn't well at all. Then, one day, she came up with an idea to help. She told me to send money to her account, and she'd give it to Andrew, and tell him it was from her. Then, when his grandma was better, she'd tell Andrew the truth about where the money came from, and he was sure to realize how much I cared for him and forgive me. I thought this was a great idea, so I sent Kath the money. Then things got weird. She went super quiet and then stopped talking to me altogether. Then 2 months later, through social media, I found out that Andrew was getting married. To Kath! What? After having a screaming frenzy, I calmed down enough to book a flight home. I took an Uber to Andrew's house and pounded on his door. He answered, and on seeing me, he slammed the door in my face. I wasn't leaving until he spoke to me, so I sat on his doorstep. It was only when it started to rain that he eventually opened the door, and in a gruff tone said, "Okay, you have 2 minutes. Then I want you off my property for good." Look, I know you're mad, and I'm sorry, but why are you ignoring me? I tried to make amends for what I did. I sent you the money. I know. I sent it straight back, remember? He grunted. Not that money. The money that Kath gave to you and said was from me. What? That money was from her, not you. You're jealous. You found out I was marrying her, and you're here to ruin our lives. No, I'm not. Please, it was me. I wanted to help. I pleaded, but he tutted, then slammed the door again. I stood there, a soggy mess, and his words sunk in. Kath had lied to Andrew about the money. Why would she do that? Furious, I stormed around to her house and was about to press the buzzer down until she answered when the door opened, and I saw Kath stepping out with Andrew's mom. I jumped out of sight and listened. Andrew's mom was thanking her for all her help and saying how much she couldn't wait for her to be her daughter-in-law. What? As soon as his mom walked off, I jumped out of hiding and confronted Kath. You're a liar! Kath was surprised seeing me, but then she just shrugged and said, whatever, then walked toward her door. He's my man now, not yours, she added, looking back at me. You traitor! I screamed at her as I charged towards her. We got into a fight, and there was a lot of hair pulling. Finally, Kath managed to get through her entrance door and lock me out. She grinned at me through the window, so I shouted at her, Kath, you just wait! You won't get away with this! A few days passed, and their wedding day arrived. It was in some super swanky golf resort. I tried sneaking in through the entrance, but 2 guards stopped me. Ugh! Kath must have pre-warned them about me. So I had to find another way in, which involved climbing through a tiny gap in the hedge. A bodycon dress wasn't my best choice, and I had twigs in my hair and grass stains all over me. Still, out of breath, I showed up at the aisle and waved the evidence of bank statements and messages between me and Kath in Andrew's face, and shouted, Look, this is all the proof you need to show that I sent the money to Kath to help your grandma, and she's a filthy liar! Andrew looked shocked, but he took the evidence from me. No, she's making it up! Kath's eyes widened in alarm as she tried to grab the evidence out of Andrew's hands. Seeing her reaction, he pulled it away from her and looked through it. his face falling when he discovered the truth. "How could you lie to me about this?" He stared at her. "You told me that Jess cut all contact with you." Teary-eyed, Kath glared at me and said, "You get everything! The nice clothes and the lavish lifestyle, yet you act like a spoiled brat. I was sick of hiding in your shadow and defending you for all your childish outbursts. I liked Andrew from the beginning, but no, you had to have him." Through gritted teeth, Andrew told her, "It's over, Kath. I never want to see you ever again." After that, she rushed up the aisle in a frenzy of white fabric and sobs. Geez, talk about making an exit. That was 3 months ago, and a lot has changed since then. My dad eventually managed to persuade Mum to forgive him, although he had to buy her a new car and take her on a month-long island getaway. Also, she insisted that she never wanted to see Kath or her mum ever again, so Dad arranged for them to move to another city. This worked for me, as I never wanted to see Kath again either. I know I have a short temper, and I overreact sometimes, but I honestly believed that Kath was my friend. It hurt knowing that she didn't care about me at all. She just wanted my life. As for Andrew and me, now we're back together, and there's no way I'm letting my short temper cause me to lose him again. All of this could have been avoided if I hadn't let my anger blindside me. I should have trusted him from the start and heard him out. So now, if I feel anger overtaking my thoughts, I will go and pace the yard first to calm down. I may look like a crazy person, but it works a treat.
Hi, it's me, Lou. I'm back again to tell you the final part of my story. But first of all, do you remember what happened in the previous part? Well, in the last episode, things between Mark and I were really awkward. He knew that my parents got a divorce, but hadn't even texted me once. In that very difficult time, the only person who was really there for me was Will. He comforted my dad and offered to help him start a new business. This made me look at Will in a whole new light. Then, our ceremony along with a big photo shoot arrived, and a terrible incident happened to me. Aaliyah mocked me and pushed me into the pool. Will saved me this time, and then I realized that maybe it was Will who had saved me last time too. Will led me to the parking lot, and his hand felt so warm in mine, I started to feel butterflies in my stomach. He'd helped my dad, and now he'd helped me. He was really going above and beyond. He drove me home, and that's when I decided to ask him if he was the person who'd broken the lock that night and rescued me. He just shook his head, so I said, "But the cufflink I found, it looks exactly like yours." Then he said, "Oh, probably just a coincidence." I decided to leave it after that. Even though he denied it, I still had a hunch it was him. Will dropped me off and came in to make sure I was okay. He offered to stay with me until Naomi got home, but I told him I'd be okay. After he left and I heard his car drive off, I suddenly felt so empty inside. Everything was silent, and I just lay there holding the cufflink that I kept under my pillow and fell asleep. A few days later, while I was sitting at home watching movies, I received a package. Inside was a wedding invitation from Jeremy, and it was for me and Naomi. I couldn't believe he'd moved on so quickly. I was even more surprised to learn that his bride was some model from Naomi's agency. I heard Naomi said that this girl was a real show-off. When Naomi got home, I showed her the invitation, and her face fell. She immediately ripped it up and said there was no way on earth she'd attend that traitor's wedding. I told her I wouldn't go either then, but she said I had to because I was Mark's girlfriend, and Mark was Jeremy's best friend. Was I, though? What was even going on with me and Mark?
Anyway, I went to the wedding and it was crazy. There were peacocks at the entrance, and everyone said they'd spent millions of dollars on flowers. They'd even had sculptures made of them both. It was insane. And the bride changed her dress 5 times. Obviously, I sat next to Mark, and Will was opposite me. Every time I looked up, Will would look away, but I could tell he'd been looking at me. I caught myself looking at him a lot, and I didn't really understand it, but it just made me feel warm and safe being near Will. I still felt sorry for Naomi, though. Watching Jeremy and his bride share their vows made me really touched. I held Mark's hand and said, "Isn't it beautiful?" And all he said was, "Yeah." Mark's indifferent reply took the wind out of my sails, but when I looked over at Will, he was smiling sweetly at Jeremy and his bride. I suddenly felt it sad and couldn't take my eyes off him. But then I realized Will could see me looking at him. Oops! Afterwards, Jeremy and his wife came to toast our table. They actually made quite a cute couple, but when the bride realized Naomi wasn't here, she got quite upset and started crying. She was obviously a bit of a drama queen, as she said, "Everyone should be here to celebrate me! This is my day!" I just laughed and couldn't say anything. After the wedding ended, I said goodbye to everyone and left. Suddenly, we were all grown up, and our carefree student days were over. Who knew what the future held for us? After graduation, I started working for Will's startup company. I thought it was the best way I could do to repay him for how he helped my dad. Pretty soon, we were hanging out a lot, and even though he'd always been caring, he'd never been so warm and friendly to me before. I felt so comfortable around him. One morning, I decided to take the day off work and go shopping with Naomi. We saw Patek Philippe's watch collection, and it immediately made me think about Will. I decided to buy him one to thank him for everything. When I got home, I texted Will and asked if he wanted to come for dinner on the weekend so I could give the watch to him. I was so excited when he said yes. As for this with Mark, it was just getting worse and worse. He was busy all the time and often away on business trips, so I barely saw him, and it made me feel really sad. Not just once did I ask myself if our love story would have a future. And one morning, I received a message from him saying,
I have something to tell you. Let's have dinner tonight. I'll pick you up at 7:30.
Apparently, he asked me out on a date, but somehow I had a bad feeling. His tone was quite cold. Had something happened? That night, I put on my favorite dress and waited for him. He picked me up on time and took me to a very fancy restaurant. At first, we just caught up and spoke about normal things. Then, as we neared the end of the dinner, he said he needed to tell me something important. That feeling of anxiety washed over me again. I was shaking and sweating and just wanted him to spit it out. He took a deep breath. Then he said,
Lou, this is really hard for me to say, but my parents have found me a fiancé. She's great, and she'll support my family business. I tried to tell them I'm with you, but they won't accept it. So, I'll get married next month. I'm sorry.
I was so shocked, I couldn't even say anything. I'd been the biggest idiot. This whole time, everything was laid out right in front of me. Ever since he'd agreed to the blind date, he'd been acting so weird toward me. Like the time at the pool where he just watched me struggle. How had I been so blind to this? Mark didn't care about me. He didn't love me. All he cared about was having a girl on his arm who'd add to his image as a successful businessman, and of course could support his family business. I thought I'd feel worse than I did, but I actually felt relieved. I said to him, "You know what? You don't deserve me. We're over." Then I got up and left. I was disappointed, but I deserved so much better. Mark ran after me and offered to take me home, but I could get myself home. I didn't need him anymore. I didn't sleep a wink that night. I just lay there thinking about Mark and Will and all our friends. I still had dinner with Will at the weekend, and I didn't want to cancel it. Even though I didn't feel good, I knew Will would find a way to cheer me up like he always did. The weekend rolled around, and Will and I met at a restaurant near my house. He was carrying a bouquet of flowers, and I was surprised, but happy. You see, I knew he'd cheer me up. After we finished eating, I gave Will the watch. He wouldn't accept it, though, and even got a bit angry, saying,
Why'd you buy me such an expensive gift? You don't owe me anything, Lou. We're friends, and friends help each other out. I can't accept this.
Then, before I could say anything, he said,
And anyway, I wanted to help your dad because I'm looking to invest in the restaurant industry. So please, stop thanking me.
Then he pushed the gift box back towards me. Will, please. I bought this for you because you're my friend and I care about you, and it made me think of you. If you're my friend, you'll take it. He rolled his eyes and said,
Fine. But you really didn't have to.
After that, things were a little awkward, and Will asked me if I was okay. Yes, that moment, my heart was full of confidence. I decided it was better just to tell him. So I told him what had happened between me and Mark. He was surprised at first, but after a moment of silence, he suddenly looked at me, and he smiled, and it made me so confused. Then he said,
Do you want to know a secret?
Then he told me that he was the mysterious stranger that had broken the law that day, and the cufflink which I picked up was his. The M in this stood for his surname, Mitchell. Oh my God, I knew it! I mean, I hadn't even thought about his surname before, but it all made sense. Of course it was him. He said he'd kept it a secret because he'd learned that Naomi locked me in the room and he didn't want to cause any tension at Plutus Heights. Then he confessed that he'd had a secret crush on me ever since we watched the sunset together in a small corner in his mansion. But after that, he knew Mark liked me, so he'd kept his crush a secret and just protected me from afar. Until now, when he could finally tell me how he really felt. I can't say I was surprised. I mean, I always felt Will had feelings for me, and if I'm honest with myself, I had feelings for him too, but I hadn't even realized. After he confessed, he asked me if I wanted to date him. I didn't know what to say. I was so confused. We were in a romantic restaurant with a love song playing in the background. It all just felt too much. I sat there staring at him, and his eyes were so affectionate. Seeing my confusion, he just smiled and said,
It's okay. Take your time. I'll wait for you.
Then he took me home, and before I got out of the car, he grabbed my hand and kissed it. I quickly said goodbye to him and ran into the house. Then I lay down on my bed and thought about what Will had said, that he'd wait for me. I must have fallen asleep because the next moment I was dreaming of me and Will walking along the beach at sunset. The next morning, I woke up and I knew my answer. I texted Will and asked if he could meet me in the park near my house. As soon as I saw him, I looked in his eyes and said, Will, I've always been looking for my knight in shining armor. Now I know. It's you, and I will not miss this opportunity. He smiled brightly, hugged me tightly, and then kissed my forehead. Never had I felt so safe and warm with happiness overflowing in my heart. That's right. He was the one who saved me that day, the one who helped my family through difficult times, and also the one who has silently cared and protected me for so long. He was the guy who truly loved and cared about me. And ever since then, we've been an official couple, and I have never been happier than I am right now. I've finally found the love of my life, and life couldn't be sweeter. Thank you so much for listening to my story. Did you guess that I'd end up with Will? He was the one for me all along. It just took me some time to realize. But the best things are often things worth waiting for. Right?